You found yourself at the junction where worlds meet. Politics.
Civility? How about honesty in this country, folks?
Entertainment.
I don't like entertainment.
And a whole bunch of other stuff.
It's about having a healthy body image. You have a very unhealthy body. You should have a horrible body image.
Not a big home improvement market in Detroit.
We are definitely going to get letters.
You're listening to Talk Radio's Strangest Animal.
You're a strange animal, that's what I know.
You're getting louder with Crowder.
But you're a strange animal, I got to follow. Oh, I'm in the spiritus.
All right, we are live. That's the sound of the weekend coming your way. I am your host, Stephen Crowder. Producing with me in studio, as always, is Jared, who is not gay. You can go to louderwithcrowder.com for all references. Follow him at NotGayJared on Twitter. I've fulfilled all my legal obligations. Are we good?
I'm going to call it good for this week.
Okay,
We're
so
good.
Everyone draw your own conclusions. We have a lot to get to today. We have three great guests. Mike Ward, who actually has been put before a human rights tribunal for telling an offensive joke in Canada. He'll be here to talk about that. And I'm going to convert him.
This is the world we live in.
This is the world we live in.
Is this real life?
Is this real life? We'll have our finger at the censorship button ready.
Gosh.
And I'm going to convert him into a conservative on air. Or maybe he's already a conservative at this point. In Quebec, there are no conservatives. There are liberals and liberal separatists. Then we have Lauren Southern, who is, of course, our friend, another Canadian, but she made news because she was attacked by feminists who poured a bodily fluid on her in protest.
They will do that.
They will do that.
They will do that.
It's kind of their calling card. They're the wet bandits.
They're what bandits.
And then, of course, we have Courtney Kirchhoff, our very own. She wrote a column this week.
Not Canadian. Fun
not
fact.
Canadian.
Fun
not
fact.
Canadian at all. And wrote a column about why you cannot be a man in 2016 and vote Bernie Sanders. I wrote one a while back from the male perspective, and she wrote it from the female perspective. So it turned out really well. So full show for you, but this week, obviously, a lot has been going on. Ohio's the big talk.
Gosh, what a mess.
This whole thing is a mess.
The whole thing is just I just feel sick. Thinking, you hit that point and you're just done. You think it's going to get better. You think, oh, this could turn around. But then, like, the reality show takes a new plot twist and
it's like when you're so
sucks.
hungry, the election right now for conservatives, you're so hungry.
Hungry.
I'm so hungry. You're so hungry, you go to a restaurant and then nothing looks good on the menu. That's kind of where I am.
Been there.
I'm just like, okay. All right, The truth is, here's something I just thought about today. I don't know if many people have realized this. This is the first election I can think of. Maybe if you go back like to William McKinley or, someone who we don't really know about as far as the elections. This is the first election where both of them could possibly be rendered ineligible for criminal activity. If it's Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump, you have Hillary Clinton, right? They just talked about a big witness if the FBI indicts her on the email server scandal, and Donald Trump has to appear in court over the Trump University scandal.
Some respect. These are America's best. This is the finest we have to offer, and you will show some respect.
America's best. Trump has lost suits before. Hillary Clinton hasn't. So if we have a precedent there, Hillary Clinton will probably win, and there's a stronger chance that Trump could probably lose. Maybe they both get through. The point is that that's even looming is insanity. It really is insane. Can we just pick people who aren't criminals to start? That being said, I still hate Kasich more. I don't know why.
It went solidly from who the heck are you to arch enemy number one.
It went from who the heck are you to he won Ohio.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
John Kasich won Ohio, governor of Ohio. Now, let me be clear, okay? He's in a state that is over. People say, well, it's a swing. It's not really a swing state. It's a blue-collar union state where some of them still vote for handouts and they think a Republican might do better because Democrats have screwed them. That's really what it comes down to. Let's be honest here. If you want to talk about big influence, we've talked about this. Big unions, they have far more money than the evil Koch brothers or Big Oil they give. And union members in the Midwest, this BS about the Midwest being America's heartland, it's the handout land. It's, well, why don't you make a better car? How about you pay me $132,000 in salary and benefits? We'll go under. That's okay. We'll take a bailout. We'll take a bailout for $500, Alex. So I'm just tired of this. There is no heartland to America in the Midwest.
Listen, I'm from Ohio, okay? Can't confirm. Go on.
I can confirm. It's just like I'm tired. Oh, we're working class. Listen, just because you are working in a factory doesn't mean you're more working class than a guy who runs the factory, than a guy who bought it. Okay, this idea that there's no American manufacturing is untrue. There's plenty of American manufacturing. It's just not where you want it to be. It's just not in steel anymore. It just may not be. And there's still plenty of coal. Hillary Clinton will, of course, put you out of business. She promised that. We ran that at the website. Openly promised to put coal workers out of business. So John Kasich wins Ohio. I get it. That's what I got off on a tangent. Better than, he was preceded by I don't know how left, but a Democrat for sure. So, yeah, you'd rather have him there, especially if Hillary Clinton's president. You don't need to oust this guy and have a super far leftist in a swing state like Ohio.
People from
under
Ohio,
a Hillary Clinton
they like him
presidency.
there, too. They want him to stay.
He
Most
won
of them
by
want
like
him to stay.
61% re-election. So he's good for that state, right?
Sure.
For the country, not so much. And when he won Ohio, confetti was falling and fireworks and strippers. I mean, this guy, it was like when you win Mario Kart.
That went down in my hometown, by the way, of Berea.
Did it?
They know how to throw a party.
It sounds like an STD. It's a horrible name for a hometown.
It's also home of the Browns. Go on.
So John Kasich wins Ohio. Everyone thinks, okay, John Kasich, you've made your point. Right? And then he'll bow out. He gives this victory speech like it's even mathematically possible for him to win. And everyone's watching.
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
That's John Kasich. John Kasich is the guy at
Closing time was a long time ago.
closing time. John Kasich is the guy at a party who won't leave, and he was never invited. No one even wanted John Kasich at that party. There was maybe like one person at the party. He's like, no, man, you just gotta give Kasich a chance. He's cool. No, we don't want John Kasich at the party. I told you. No, man, you just gotta give him a chance. And you say no. Everyone's like, no, we don't want him there. But the one guy sneaks him in, and you're like, oh, John Kasich is here. What happened? Was that you, Carl? And he's like, yeah, but you just gotta get to know him. And we've gotten to know him. We don't like him. We don't want him. Ironically, John Kasich has unified everybody in agreeing that he's a douche. Everyone agrees that he sucks. Nobody wants him. And it's not even that they hate him, but here's what bothers me about John Kasich. And I was talking about this on Glenn Beck's show today. I know, hold your hate mail. People are like, Glenn Beck, I have friends who are liberal too. John Kasich does this whole, I'm not going to take the low road to the highest office in the land. That's his quote. What? Your only path to any kind of victory is through screwing the voters with a technicality at the Republican convention. There is no more greasy, underhanded low road than that. It's mathematically impossible. He can't win 112% of the delegates remaining. I don't know. I mean, no, listen, I'm an underdog story, Rocky. No, you're the idiot story. You're I Am Sam. Okay? Just get out.
Well, yeah, it's funny because I found myself in the group of people, like many, who were like thinking, we just gotta, if only Trump can't win both Florida and Ohio. As someone who doesn't want Trump, who doesn't think he's a good candidate, doesn't really reflect the majority of Republicans out there, we don't want him to win. And then as soon as I thought about that, it dawned on me Tuesday night. I'm like, Kasich won Ohio.
Crap.
He's never going to leave.
He's never going to leave.
He won it off the back, really. Let's be honest.
People
Rubio
who
and Cruz supporters.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, there's.
No, I think
that.
if Kasich drops out, half would go
Confetti.
Trump. Yeah.
Make it rain.
Make it rain. I'm gonna make it rain with confetti when I win Ohio. You think the guy went to the moon with Lance Bass? It's just unreal. This guy thinks it's a victory. He's just a greasy. He looks like a seagull in the BP oil spill. He's got those like the kind of down feathers in the head of a baby bird. Someone gave him that haircut.
It's a little matted.
A little matted,
braided.
but it has like that. And the mama's feeding him, and he's kind of greasy in nature and hunchback, and he's just like into a Common Core. My dad was a madman. That's John. That's how I picture him. I don't, listen, I don't wish death upon anybody, and certainly not John Kasich. But I can't say that, I can't say when it happened, when he was showing it crossed my mind. Not like I want it. I would never wish death upon anybody. But a part of me was hoping, maybe that confetti could just be anthrax. Just a little bit, Because it would be self-inflicted. And who am I, as a libertarian, if he wanted to throw anthrax on himself, who am I to tell him that he can't do that? That's his body, it's his choice.
It's his prerogative.
So that's John Kasich right now, and I don't know anyone who really wants. Honestly, I don't dislike Kasich. I'm just frustrated with this whole thing. And like we said, I'm not a Trump guy. People know that, and I know everyone gets so upset. But if the GOP, if through like a contested convention, I can kind of understand if they get there and Trump only has, 40, 45% of the vote and the total other delegates with everyone else is more. If he doesn't even have a majority of the delegates, I understand, okay, putting it in a head-to-head and seeing how it turns out, because Trump loses in a head-to-head to anybody, right? There is a problem. There's a system in place. If Trump, you don't want someone getting a nomination with only 30%, average in states. That's a problem. But, and I've said this, if Trump wins the delegates outright, it has to be Trump. It has to be. And if he doesn't, and they trot out Kasich or Romney or Paul Ryan like we're hearing, at that point, I will relieve myself on the ashes of the GOP. Okay? So Trump supporters who get mad, appreciate that consistency. We'll be like the feminists with Lauren Southern. We putting out that fire with bodily fluids, because I do not want to see that kind of a screw job like you see with the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And that's what John Kasich is hoping for. And that really, really bothers me. Like, it's one thing if if it were Ted Cruz and Donald Trump and they're neck and neck and it goes to convention, and then, okay, I understand. But that's not it. John Kasich has no mathematical chance to. This is, when people talk about career politicians, you want to talk about establishment, let's talk about John Boehner, let's talk about Mitch McConnell, let's talk about John Kasich. These are people who are almost lifetime politicians who have clearly betrayed their voting constituency. But let's define establishment. It's their picture right next to it in the dictionary. We'll come back, I'll clear my head, and we'll fight about something else.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with expert timing.
This is breaking news on Louder with Crowder. I'm Perry Matheson. We take you now to a Republican Party currently underway.
Yeah, so I met this girl and she interned for.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at the network, and she is an absolute monster.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've heard bad things.
Is that Kasich over there?
That's Kasich. He's coming over. Hey guys, what a great party. You're doing a great job here with the Republican Party. I brought a case of Zima, if anybody wants some.
Of course you would bring Zima, John Kasich.
You know who drank a lot of Zima was my father, who was a mailman, before I was governor of Ohio. Did anybody even invite him?
Nobody ever invites him.
And boy, I tell you what, he sure liked to party as well. He had quite the reputation around the mail office. We'll keep you updated as the Republican Party progresses after this.
Hey, if you're listening to or watching this podcast, there's a strong chance that you are not yet following me on Twitter at @SCrowder, where I'm tweeting all day long. I'm ticking off the social justice warriors. You should see the amount of hate I get on there. Far, far, far worse than any fat Sports Illustrated model or Black Lives Matter charlatan. So listen, it's free, you get to be entertained, and you can chime in. Also, if you're following me on Twitter, you can send me your tweets, and maybe you'll be lucky enough, and I mean lucky enough because I have a lot of followers, okay, that they call me the follower machine, to have your tweet to me, or Not Gay Jared, included in our rockinest tweet of the week. So follow me on Twitter at @SCrowder. If not, I don't want to say I have sights on your mother, but... Oh, she's dead? You're just saying that because I made a mom joke. No, she's really dead? Well, you kind of walked into it. We are back. Some people get mad at the dance. They're like, you're corny. Screw you. So we're back. People listening have no idea. Of course, the live video stream is at louderwithcrowder.com for those listening terrestrially on our wonderful affiliates in, of course, Wham, beautiful home station, Detroit, Alaska, New Hampshire, Florida, Someplace.
Some others.
Missouri. I don't know. A few stations.
You know, it's a good problem to have though, because you're losing track. That's a good problem to have.
I'm losing
It used
track.
to be like, a couple, and now, it's growing.
Yeah, I don't care anymore. Listen, if people want to carry the show, they carry the show. That's one thing Jared knows, because Not Gay Jared started when the show was nowhere. And people either syndicate it or they don't. We're not making half the time, like when I get called to speak at schools. By the way, next week, Tuesday, in Washington, D.C., let me bring this up here. I have a live show. I don't advertise these a lot anymore because people show up to protest, and it's not as fun. American University in Washington, D.C. So Black Lives Matter, get your fact-checking ready, and you can get mad at my jokes. Gonna make fun of AIDS and black people, so get ready. Sometimes two at the same time. So, speaking of which, we had that ethnic introduction, and we just talked about AIDS and black people. Someone just tweeted, oh no, God, no, not John Kasich. This, he has unified nobody wants him. And the funny thing is, it's not like anybody hates him. He's just
He's only people that like him are the people that are so far apathetic. And
right.
Beyond
He's a
apathetic
safe,
with the whole thing. Yeah.
He's a safe kind of like,
not funny, haha, funny queer.
well, that too. But he's safe kind of if you want to seem as though you're above the fray. Oh, I kind of like Kasich. And then you want to confuse a Kasich fan, just say, oh, okay, why? Oh. So I want to talk about something. Interestingly, Jared made a great point, and it ties into an article at louderwithcrowder.com this week where a black social justice warrior at BuzzFeed dressed nicely and dressed poorly as a social experiment to prove racism, microaggressions, and he proved the exact opposite of that.
So funny. The best part to me is that BuzzFeed still was like, pay this guy $1,000. Gotta run with it.
Yeah.
Gotta see what just got thrown out there.
Well, the epic
What's happening?
conclusion was when he dressed nicely, people treated him better. He was missing change in the bus. They said, that's fine. The lady at the dry cleaners or the grocery store said, oh, you're looking great today, and people weren't eyeing him. And he's like, when I dressed like a thug, people were, it just shows how, I'm going, hold on a second. Isn't that wonderful, Mr. Black? I don't remember his name for all intents and purposes. He's Mr. Black. Mr. Black, isn't that wonderful that you put on a blazer and some khakis and you're treated just like the white guy? Here's the thing. If they hated you because you were black, the skinny tie Mod Squad suit wouldn't fake them out. Right? It's not like a T-Rex where it's like based on movement. Like racists, they only see you if you're in sweatpants. They know you're black. They just know that you're dressing nicely. Same thing for me if I wear sweatpants into, I don't know, Banana Republic. Which is why I don't go to Banana Republic. All I wear is sweatpants, so I don't go to Banana Republic. It's offensive to them, and it's offensive to me being there because I feel great shame. So this is what he wrote about. Like Robert Byrd or David Duke, they don't have an exception for pleated pants, okay? They hate you because you're black. So this article went out, and everyone's like, oh, how racist this is. And so we wrote an article, Courtney and I, on how this proved the exact opposite, and it went viral because everyone was just going, well, of course that's true. And you made a point because we went to the Bernie rally. We did that video, which unlike HuffPo, by the way, who wrote a hit piece on a Trump rally with no substantiation, we video recorded the Bernie rally. We can prove it. And Bernie's up there, right? And he's going, 1 in 4 African Americans are. How do we do Bernie?
1 in 4 African Americans are in prison! You're more likely to end up in jail than graduate high school.
So he's giving all of these stats. You were talking about this. How the left can give all of these negative stats on black Americans.
Yeah, 1 in 4 goes to prison. 1 in 4, leaves their child, and
which are not untrue. But unlike leftists, we understand there's a big problem, a cultural problem, a fatherless problem, a moral problem. They attribute it to race. Go ahead.
But I was thinking today after the other day, I was reading that article, piecing it together, and thinking, you just told me 1 in 4 black people, men, age 18 to 24 or whatever, goes to jail. And then you yell at me when I profile a black man, thinking I have a 25% chance of getting murdered or mugged right here. It's a trap. It's a trap.
Exactly.
I can't win.
Exactly.
I can't win.
Now, you probably wouldn't profile that black guy if he was dressed like the BuzzFeed guy in a jacket, pants, but if you see...
I do now because I heard the stats.
Because you heard the stats.
Stats didn't say anything about dress code.
It is true, though. If you leave a Democrat convention, if you leave a Bernie Sanders rally, you're probably going to be more racist. Because all you hear about is what these men in prison, black men in prison, all of these drug trafficking offenses, violent crime. Right now, a big problem, the biggest indicator of whether you are successful or not in life that we have currently available, okay, in the United States, whether you're successful or not, whether you commit a crime or not, whether you're up in jail, whether you finish high school, whether you get a college degree, whether you start a business, whether you make, whether you make a living wage, is do you have mommy and daddy, and are mommy and daddy still married? More importance placed on the daddy. People don't like to hear that, but a father in the house is the biggest indicator that we have. It's the constant across all of those, and that's a big problem in the black community. Unfortunately, people who speak out like Bill Cosby, Larry Elder's talked about that, but Bill Cosby's not a great ambassador anymore. But leftists just say black, boom, statement. And yeah, I think it creates more racism. It would have to. I mean, the whole thing has. Look at where we are now after Barack Obama. Like you said, I think a lot of people with the Trump thing, they just feel like they've been crapped on for 7 years, including white people who voted for Barack Obama. And then when they
want their Obama is what they want. They want their hero, their champion, the one who says screw you to the other side, executive order. They want their own version of that, which is bad too.
Which is bad too. That's how, give unto us a king, right? That's the famous story from the Bible. If God's not real, I know we're going to get atheists, libertarians. That's not the point. Think of it as an Aesop fable. Just think of it as tortoise and the hare, but with Jesus. Although I think it's old. Give unto us a king. Which book is that?
You've got me.
I can't quote verses. 2 Corinthians, we'll say. But it is true. It's a great point that you made. They give you all of these horrifying statistics and then want you to shut off your evolutionary mechanism of generalization, which is made for self-preservation, right? Oh, giant, bright red colors in the wild in that frog. You could probably make a dart out of that thing.
I could imagine being like a detective these days, and
can you describe him?
Pressure.
I'd
rather
not. Black hair, eyes brown, olive toned. So anyway, we'll expand on that more afterward. How long do we have until we have to bring in Mike?
10 seconds.
Okay, Mike Ward. Is that you're sure?
Yep.
Mike Ward after the break here, talking about free speech in Canada. Don't miss it.
Hey listeners, this is Jesse, former governor of Minnesota, Ventura here, the bod. This week you've had the wool pulled over your eyes by the establishment hacks who are trying to rape the American voter from their constitutional right to vote. What they're planning on doing is borderline treasonous. Not borderline, it is treasonous because word on the street that Uncle Jesse has heard regarding the facts of a brokered convention is that they're gonna try and trot out Paul Ryan on a general election stage versus Hillary Clinton. Because 2 vaginas are better than 1. Know the facts.
Whoa, Jared, what are you doing?
Shoot bad guys.
With what?
My AR-15.
Where'd you get it?
AR-15.com.
Oh, there's another one.
Kaboom!
You got him.
Yeah.
Thank God for AR-15.com. They have AR-15 and accessories for sale and the best advice there is on the web. Oh, no, there's another one.
Kaboom!
You got him.
Yeah.
With your what?
AR-15.
From where?
AR-15.com.
That's the best place to go, and that's the takeaway because this commercial's about to stop.
I'ma do the things that I wanna do. I ain't got a thing to prove to you. I ain't gonna wear the clothes that you like. I don't give a hoot about what you think.
All right, I'm glad to bring on our first guest of the program. So many of you listening in Les États-Unis, the United States, don't know about this guy, but I grew up on him. So growing up in French Canada, there's a lot of controversy, actually, and it's a big issue, freedom of speech and comedy. He'll talk about that, but he has an album, Pedophile Jokes and Death Threats, in case you were wondering what you were in for. And you can follow him on Twitter at MikeWardCA. Mike Ward, thanks for being here, brother.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me.
It's rare that I get someone, we've talked about that there are a few people who we get on where it's bizarre for me because it's a celebrity. And, I always watched you and Patrick Groux when I was growing up and Louis José Hood on Musique Plus. And back then, though, you didn't do any anything in English. So that happened since I've left Montreal. Did you always speak English, or did you learn it to expand your comedy?
No, I grew up. My dad's English. My mom's was French. She's dead now. But no problem. You didn't kill her. Yeah. So I just grew up mostly in English, and French comedy was easier since there aren't as many comics. So it's kind of easy to become famous, and I was lazy, so I was just a French comic, and then started doing shows in like 2007.
Well, I always wondered too with French comedy, like where do you go? I mean, you have Montreal, Quebec City. Where else is the tour? Is it like Victoriaville? Where do you go?
What's really weird is like my last tour, I sold 135,000 tickets, and I toured for like 3 years just in Quebec. Like there's a really big market for such a little place.
Yeah, and it influences to the stand-up for Americans. My stand-up wasn't really joke-telling. And French Canadians, it's much more kind of one-man show. You know, they bring in a lot of elements. So it had a big influence on what I did up there. I started at Comedy Works. It was, I think, 2005 or 6. And, man, Montreal is just a hotbed for great comics. Okay, speaking of which, we'll get back to that. But you explain for people who don't know, you have been put before a human rights tribunal. Basically, your comedy career is in the hands of the courts. Tell everyone how we got to there.
Okay, there was a little kid in Quebec who was he was famous. There was a TV show that it was called Donner au suivant, and it was like Pay It Forward. And this was a little kid that was sick. He was deaf. And his dream was to sing for the Montreal Canadiens, the national anthem. So they put him on that show. He sang for the Canadiens, got tons of media exposure. And then he sang for the Pope. I don't know if his family wrote the Pope or how he got that gig, but he sang for the Pope.
What did he sing for the Pope? He's not singing the national anthem, is he?
No, he was singing some, weird little Christian song, like I have no idea what he was singing, but and then I just did a joke like 5 years later that he wasn't dead yet, because I thought he was like a Make-A-Wish kid that was dying,
right?
And I did that in my show in front of adults that had paid. And,
well, yeah, that's kind of key, you would assume, but
yeah, but and then his family found out. They called the Human Rights Commission. And then I got a letter saying I owed $80,000 to the kid's family for that joke. So
did you pay it?
No. I hired the best lawyer I could get, and it cost me more in legal fees than what Right now, I've given a little over $80,000 to my lawyer just to not pay the human rights thing.
Well, yeah, in principle. Now, what were the consequences if you didn't pay? Was it they might ban you from comedy? What were the kind of conditions?
I have no idea. They just wanted money. Like they and then it was weird during the whole trial. They at first it was they were talking. Okay, in his joke, he said that the little kid didn't die, and that I said that he was unkillable, and I tried to kill him, and it didn't work. And then they started talking like I'd actually tried to kill the little kid. They were like, and then Mike Ward said he was going to drown him, and I was like, okay, I'm on trial for drowning a little kid in a joke. It's crazy.
Right. Well, we did that
really
once. We had a
weird.
lot of complaints where we were just talking on the program, and we were talking about Charlie Brown and how bizarre it was that he lost his hair so early. And I don't know if it was Jerry, but we said, well, a little known fact, Charlie Brown had progeria. And people got really mad. Well, my friend has progeria. And everyone's always okay if you make fun of everything until it's their thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So so this happened, they complained, and was this a court that said, okay, you have a case, and just ordered you to pay the fine? What was that process like?
Yeah, I got a letter from the human rights people saying I owed them money. So I brought this to my lawyer. And
Well, who are the human rights people? Like, what kind of commission or court is this?
It's just a bunch of ladies in an apartment, I think. Like, it's just like.
Is it a Canadian thing? Is it international?
It's this only exists in Canada, and there's a real human rights tribunal in The Hague in Holland where they go after criminal, like war crimes and,
Right.
dictators. But in Canada, each province has their own little system, and it's not legal. Like they send me a letter saying I owed 80,000, but when I said no, they were like, okay, we're going to take you to court, and that's why we're in court now.
So you're still in court?
Yeah, well, the trial is over, but what's really weird, I thought when the trial was over, I'd get a decision from the judge, but I'm going to get the answer in like 3 to 6 months.
Well, everything takes a little bit longer in Canada. Your health care, I mean, even the court process, they have to put on their powdered wigs. Did they do that when you did this?
They didn't have the padded wigs, but my lawyer had sort of a suit, like he had the bottom part, like
right,
sort
yeah,
of a
yeah.
robe.
Well, they must have loosened that because it was law. You had to do the full English court system for a while. Did you know that, not Jared?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, you'd have judges coming
fantastic.
in. Be like a traffic ticket, and you'd go in, you'd have some guy looking like George Washington with, looking like a white Captain Hook.
I don't want to say it's incentive to go to court, but that's up there on my list.
By God, I'm going to speed 5 over just so I can have my day in court.
Yes.
Okay, Mike. So this is a lot of Americans aren't going to believe this. We've written about this at the website Louder with Crowder. Let me kind of tell you. Obviously, this is a more political, cultural show. I'm to the right of Attila the Hun. When I grew up in Canada, people thought it was shtick that I was right wing. I remember having a discussion. I think it was with Deanne Smith when I started talking about freedom of speech and how important it was. And she said, "Well, except for hate speech." And she couldn't believe it when I said, "That's not a real thing. Stop saying that. That's not a real thing." Americans don't appreciate that freedom of speech is actually a very uniquely American. It's not protected in a lot of other countries. So has this made you rethink some of that and go, "Oh my God, I didn't realize how little rights I had in this area"?
I always thought, because, growing up, I just figured I had the same freedom of speech as in the States. Because Canadians never really think about that or never really talk about freedom of speech.
Right.
So, when the first time someone told me, okay, you owe money for this, I was like, that's crazy. He was like on television. I just made fun of him. That's like making fun of Justin Bieber. It's like making fun of,
Donald Trump.
Yeah, but it's weird. It's made me hate my country, especially Quebec.
Gosh.
I was never I hate Canada and I hate Quebec even more. And if you guys please invade us, I would like America to invade, make Canada its bitch.
It's funny because I've talked about this. When I grew up, here's the thing. People don't understand. You know this. In Canada, there is no Quebec, there's no conservative, there's no libertarian. There's liberal and then liberal separatists. That's really the choices you have. And so people hear the word conservative and they think it's a bunch of, old Christians. They don't understand what the Constitution is about. And I always say, I used to have these Canadians in college, professors saying, the United States is evil empire. And I looked at them, I said, listen, the fact that you are Canada and not the 51st state is proof that that's not the case. You have this giant land rich in natural resources with virtually no national defense whatsoever when compared to the United States. There's nothing you could do. And they engage in fair trade with you guys. They're clearly not an empire. And it's one of those things where Canadians... like you said, I don't think they think about it a lot. People thought I was joking when I said hate speech isn't a thing. It doesn't. They're like, what about hate crimes? I said murder doesn't need a footnote. If you kill somebody, that's already a crime. So it seems like there's a real wake up. Do you feel like this is in the comedy community? Is this happening, or are you in the minority in Canada still?
I think comics are really starting to be afraid because people are like, this week with the Ang Lee talking about how the
Oscars
jokes at the Oscars. Sorry about that. Who cares? Seriously, who cares about that? That's one thing that always freaks me out. People go, jokes hurt, but the only way a joke can hurt you is if your life has been too easy. Because if you were kidnapped and beaten, and you wouldn't escape and go, oh, the most hurtful part was when he made fun of me.
Yeah. It was the fact that he didn't really, I don't think he recognized my triggers was upsetting. Yeah, it's funny that you say, I hope that's the case, but there needs to be a cultural shift in mindset. And now you've got, Pierre Trudeau, who is Mr. cracking down on offensive speech, who is Mr. identity politics. I mean, I remember literally when I was at Comedy World.
You mean?
Yeah, sorry, but did I say Pierre?
Yeah.
Oh,
Same
okay.
thing, though.
We met Pierre one time walking through Montreal, and he was giving someone the finger.
Oh, really?
Well, that's another thing in Canada. I was like, this guy has no security. I couldn't imagine. Like Canadians, they don't try and assassinate their prime ministers. Their prime ministers literally get pies in the face, like an Acme cartoon.
Yeah.
And Americans, it's so silly. I remember I was there at Comedy Works one night, and it was when Harper was elected. I think when he was first elected. Was that 2005, 2006? Or was that re-election?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think first time was like 2004 or 5 or something.
Okay.
Or 6.
Okay. Well, I was there that night. And I remember David Pride was there. Derek Lingvanus was there. Mike Mayo was a friend of mine. And there were a bunch of people. It was just kind of an open mic, Jimbo's Pub. And I remember people going up there, and everyone just had their jokes about how much they hated Stephen Harper and how they were so liberal. And I remember it was just assumed this is default, right? We all agree on this. And I remember thinking, you're destroying your own ability to make a living because, we understood that's the end game. We've been aware of this on the right for a long time. Universities banning Ann Coulter, I think Milo Yiannopoulos. It's very, very. I was kicked out of a school. I don't remember if it was Marianopolis or if it was Vanier, one of those, those Sageps, because I made a Muhammad joke during their cultural fair week, and they said you're not allowed to come back. And I was amazed that comedians were supporting this platform. So, what do you think it takes? Is your case getting a lot of press there, and are other comedians taking note? Do you think, really, or do you think they're still going to go in and pull the lever for people who are going to support this crap?
I think if I win, it'll be like nothing happened. And if I lose, it's going to scare a lot of people. The thing I have been happy about, though, is people, even people on the left have been supportive. And generally, free speech is just people on the left, they think more of the people's feelings than they do about, actual our rights and the way, that we should be allowed to say what we actually think and not just pretend everyone like each other.
Right.
But now a lot of comics that are to the left have been really supportive because they realize that, if they get rid of me, then whoever is second most offensive to whoever, is the judge. Right. They'll go after him next, and then so you can never get rid of everyone.
Right. Well, by God, they can try. Okay, Mike Ward, we have to go to a break. We want to bring you back and talk about this more. Hopefully fix that microphone. Not Gay Jared, what are you doing? Mike Ward, CA on Twitter. Louder with Crowder. Free speech. Stay tuned.
This is breaking news on Louder with Crowder. I'm Perry Matheson. We take you now to a Republican Party currently underway.
Hey, you know what's a really fun dance? Is the Macarena. I tell you, I really get a kick out of it.
Why is he still here?
Because it's a dance, but it's also exercise, and we have an obesity problem in America, particularly Ohio.
He's always here. No one invites him. He always shows up.
And exercise is important. If you want to get a job where I tell you, you'll be winded by the end of the day. My father was a mailman.
Holy shit.
We'll keep you updated as the Republican Party progresses after this.
Loser in his, her, or Z's mother's basement watching this on the YouTube live stream. Listen, YouTube is great, but it's not always super convenient if you're on the go. That's why this show, which is actually syndicated as a radio show, is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, or any kind of podcatcher that you Android users for free. Just search Louder with Crowder, find it, subscribe. You get the full show and some exclusive content that you actually won't hear on YouTube, including giveaways, extra commercials, me beating Not Gay Jared within an inch of his life, but it's okay. He always comes back into work so I can fire him. So iTunes, SoundCloud, or Podcatcher, get the full show and listen to Louder with Crowder on the go. If you don't, you're probably a racist rapist.
but you're a strange animal. I got to follow. Oh, I'm in the spiritus.
All right, we're back, and I know that the guest knows why that song is significant. You can follow him on Twitter at MikeWardCA. Mike, you know what that's about.
Yeah, that's a gown. I used to do a show called Le Gros Show. That I was like a sort of a guy that was really loved the 80s and
That's a lot
and
of French
hair
Canadians.
bands. Yeah, exactly. Everyone like your Jean-Guy Tremblay actually exists.
Yeah, it's my uncle Raymond Massé. Jean-Guy
Okay.
Tremblay is actually Raymond Massé and Eric Léonard combined. And people don't, like, these are real people. But that was actually when I first heard that song, watching your
Okay.
show, and we ended up incorporating it into the bumps. So it's just, it's funny. I was raised on it, and I had no idea that we'd be here now. One thing that was really sort of stuck out at me, Mike, before the break, you said, yeah, you know, the left, they don't really understand this sort of concept of rights. That is language that when I grew up in Canada, so I grew up from 3 to 18, left at 18, no one would have understood or even used. The paradigm of sort of the left and rights and authoritarianism. So it's surprising to me to hear you say that because no one ever spoke like that.
Yeah.
Is that just you, sort of with your own, I guess, awakening?
I think, yeah, having the government bring me to court.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That's a good wake-up call. No, but we've started to get sort of. I'm from Quebec City, and for some reason, Quebec City is like one of the only right-wing cities in Eastern Canada. So I
Really?
think that's why. Yeah, there's
I guess the separatism could kind of, the idea of sovereignty a little bit could lend itself toward independence, maybe? I don't know.
most of the right though in Quebec are anti-separatists.
Yeah,
They want to. Yeah. Sorry about that.
I had no idea. So, okay, I didn't know that. I had no idea. I mean, you meet a lot of Canadians, and we would talk with them. My aunt just died, so my mom was back up there, and they'd talk with family, like Raymond and Eric, and talk about things, and they'd go, like, oh, yeah, that's it. You know, Darren, I never thought of it like that, you know, yeah. And they haven't thought of these things. Like,
Yeah.
They hadn't thought of free speech. They hadn't thought of, well, why do you have the Second Amendment in the United States? Big reason is to protect the First Amendment, you know? If they can sue you for $80,000, it's not unheard of for them to simply storm your house and take you to prison for doing something.
Yeah.
A lot of them they just don't think of it that way. So it's so surprising to me to see you, I guess sort of the term is taking the red pill. Well, did it take the court to make this happen, or were you sort of shifting before that?
No. I've been I've always been sort of right leaning. I'm right leaning for Quebec, which
Right.
means like I'm about as liberal as Bernie Sanders, basically. But I'm for free speech.
Right.
And no, for a lot of things, I'm for small government. I hate having the government tell me, how even like city municipal government telling me, okay, my hedge has to be this height. And,
Right.
I'm like, yeah, it's my land. Let me do what I want.
Yeah, no, not in Quebec. That's
Yeah.
not really the mindset there. It's funny, you mentioned that you had Academy Awards. So this is one, too, where I got a lot of complaints at Marianopolis College because I made a bunch of Asian jokes because, as you know, Marianopolis is entirely Asian and Jewish. And I've always had a clean show, but pretty politically incorrect. So I was surprised that people would get really offended. They would have Joey Elias before, and you know how he can get. And then mine is
Yeah.
clean, but I'm the one who gets the complaints because he made fun of Asians, or he made fun of Muslims. The bit that got me into the Just for Laughs the year I did it was, and I've told this before, but you would understand it more. You were, I think, maybe just doing French comedy at this point because we didn't cross paths. I talked, remember the band Sans Pression?
Yeah,
rock
the
group?
rapper?
Rap group, sorry.
yeah.
And there were a lot of them. And I remember doing a bit where I was talking about, you have these French Canadians now, they're using words they've seen in rap videos. I don't even grasp the meaning. And the bit was, Jared, you're going to have to edit this because it's American, but you'll get it. I said, no, je vais voir plus tard, vers 7 heures. OK, ça marche. Peace, OK, plus tard. And people were like, shock and laugh because everyone had heard a French Canadian use the N-word because they heard
Yeah.
it. Like if you're sans pression or all the time, they would be French and there would be the F word and the N word were the only English words. And a lot of complaints, and people were like, we get the most complaints from the stuff you do, even though it's not dirty. And I just thought, this is such a weird time, and I had to leave there with my hair on fire, and it sounds like you're about there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm married right now, but I gotta get a divorce and find an American that'll put up with me. If there's an American woman that wants to marry a dude that kind of looks like a lesbian, I'm available.
Is your wife French?
My wife is French, yeah.
Oh, okay. So in the house, do you speak French more?
Yeah, I speak French with my wife. And she uses, what's weird, like, we have a house in Florida, and whenever we go to Florida, she's so used to using the F word, she'll, like, use it, in front of little kids, and I'll have to tell her, don't say that at Disney World.
Right. Well, yeah, it's a verb in French. People don't understand. It's doesn't mean the F word. It can mean, like, something, it can actually mean, like, oh, something's broken.
Yeah, this is, and you add a, and this is weird, and,
And the way they cuss, too. Well, not Gay Jared, but the Jean Guy, he was like, it's just so weird. I was like, well, a lot of Canadians, even the English Canadians, they add their cuss word at the end of the sentence because that's how it's structured in French.
Yeah.
So, it's funny, man, Florida. Remember how offended Quebec got when there was the Florida newspaper that said something French-Canadian comes this way was a headline, and it was a guy in a Speedo? Do you remember that? It was like national outrage, and they banned Triumph the insult dog.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, I was in high school. I was going like, of course that's not right. You're banning an insult dog? They're just so sensitive. Do you see that shifting not only in comedy across the province, or do you just kind of think it's gone?
No, Quebec is really sensitive. Quebec is really, really sensitive. And I think Canada's sensitive, but Quebec's the worst for that.
And you don't see it getting better?
I don't see it getting better. I think it's getting worse everywhere. I think it's getting worse in the States. I think something's gonna have to happen for like everyone to sort of wake up and go, okay, I don't want to live like this. That I'm always careful. Okay, I can't say this. I can't say that.
We have to go to a break. For people watching, we can do a web extended here for an extra couple of minutes. But louderwithcrowder.com. Mike Ward CA on Twitter. Thank you, Mike. Everybody else, stay tuned. We'll be back. And now it's time for your Dating Advice Minute with Bill Cosby.
Now this letter comes to me from Mr. J, not disclosed first name, Kasich from Ohio in the United States. He says, Mr. Cosby, I have a problem with my lady who doesn't want to do the hip and the bop with me because I do have a hemorrhoid problem which she finds to be off-putting in the hemorrhoid. Okay, Mr. Kasich, I understand where you're coming from. There was a time, you see, when Mr. Cosby himself once battled with the H demon. And it is a battle that I tell you can't be won, but it is not without casualties, especially in the bourgeois. So what you need to do is sit down with your wife and have a talk about your personal problems. And when you're having a talk with a woman, you gotta offer her some coffee, but in the coffee is gonna be some drugs. That's very important that you put some drugs in the coffee. After about 15 minutes, she's not going to have a problem with your hemorrhoids, and you'll be doing the hip-hop below the bop.
This has been your Dating Advice Minute with Bill Cosby.
You've found yourself at the junction where worlds meet. Politics.
Civility? How about honesty in this country, folks?
Entertainment.
I don't like entertainment.
And a whole bunch of other stuff.
It's about having a healthy body image. You have a very unhealthy body. You should have a horrible body image.
Not a big home improvement market in Detroit.
We are definitely going to get letters.
You're listening to Talk Radio's Strangest Animal.
You're a strange animal, that's what I know.
You're getting louder with Crowder.
But you're a strange animal, I got to follow. Oh, I'm in the spiritus.
All right, we are back in the second hour. Producing with me in studio, as always, is Jared, who is not gay. Follow him at NotGayJared. Of course, if you're listening to this live, you could just be in the middle of a stupor from St. Patrick's Day. Looks like Sean Hannity has an exclusive with Donald Trump in Arizona on Saturday.
Well, there's that.
So this is breaking. So there you go.
There's that.
There you go. There.
It's been a while. It's been at least a couple days since I've seen one of them on the TV, so I need to get...
I mean, whatever you
fix.
think about Donald Trump, the guy knows how to play the media pretty easily.
Yeah, it's the whole, there is no such thing as bad press, and I think he knows that, and he kind of plays off this idea that, even if they're screaming at him for being a racist, it's still free advertisement and name recognition that he's going to gain from it.
And that's the kind of thing that makes me want to support Trump, just because everyone says, "Oh, you're racist," like HuffPo.
I know.
You can call someone that so many times, you're like, "All right, okay, you know what? Let's go with that."
I always want to walk people down the trail when they say, they're anti-Donald Trump. I'm like, oh, do you really know why you're anti-Donald Trump? Or did you just memorize a few HuffPo lines? And they start going down these lines of these HuffPo headlines. I'm like,
I really don't
forced
think
me to
Donald
want to
Trump,
defend him now.
I don't think Donald Trump is a racist. Now, do I think David Duke is a racist? Yeah. Do I think some people who endorsed him are racist? Do I think the guy who sucker punched the black at the rally is a racist? There's a strong chance.
By the way, my Asian friend met DeRay the other day.
Really?
Yeah.
Did he hit on him?
No, he said the race. Because I asked him how bad the gaydar was going off. He said not as bad as the racism. Dar. That's not a very catchy word. We need to come up with something better. But he said, because he's running for mayor, and my friend works kind of with, he's running for mayor of Baltimore. And my friend kind of works with some people that kind of do that. And he's, first of all, my friend, a good friend of mine, he's not very tall. He's an Asian guy. And he said,
you don't need to specify. You no need to kick a guy while he's down. He's Asian. We know.
He's Asian. He's got it tough. But he's Asian. He's like, 5'4", 5'5". I'm not sure how tall you are.
Matter of fact,
but DeRay's barely taller than him.
1 second. If you meet
hilarious.
a tall Asian, it requires a follow-up question.
Well,
That's how abnormal it is.
This is true.
Think about it. If you meet a guy who's 6 foot, really looks Asian, and he's 6'1", you're almost so where are your parents from? Like Japan, okay. And if it's one of China, you're sitting there in your head, you're only thinking, all right, how can I ask about this without getting in trouble? So pituitary tumor, what?
What's going on here? Gigantism.
I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah, you met him the other day, which is pretty funny.
So he's really tiny, DeRay. You can fit him in your...
You can fit him in your back pocket and...
In your black pocket.
In your black pocket. I think we should call it a show. We should call it a show. Just wrap it up.
Fit DeRay in your black pocket. For those listening terrestrially, you may not be aware, DeRay is a very influential Black Lives Matter activist. This is the problem, too, with what we do. Obviously, we're incredibly grateful to everyone here watching live stream on YouTube or the SoundCloud, iTunes, louderwithcrowder.com. We're also syndicated terrestrially where people are older, and we're grateful. We still, of course, want to be talking to all of you, but there really is a disconnect where the older folks are just not aware what's going on with you. They go, DeRay? Listen, DeRay is way more important than Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson now. And they just have no clue. They don't understand there's a whole new generation of social justice, race-baiting hacks who've come up online. Mm-hmm. Al Sharpton has been seen as a joke by people of our generation ever since he appeared in Lil Nicky. No one takes him seriously.
There's only a few people who Beyonce, it's Beyonce, millions and millions of followers on Twitter, and there's only a few people she follows. I think maybe 8. DeRay is one of them.
DeRay is one of them.
And that's kind of like his part of his claim
Well,
to fame.
she's the Liza Minnelli for black gays.
That's true, and they gave a lot of money to old Ferguson,
right?
Felons and such.
I just can't imagine DeRay not being a fan of Beyonce, or King B, as the gays call her.
Queen Bee.
Queen Bee.
Queen Bee.
What did I say?
King Bee. I
said King Bee. Well, jury's still out. I've seen those pictures without makeup. Hey, speaking of racism, we're at that point where everyone who was once declared racist against Barack Obama is now sexist because of Hillary Clinton. I don't know if you heard about this week. There was a lot of backlash because when Hillary Clinton gave her victory speeches in Ohio and Florida, a few tweets like Howard Kurtz, Joe Scarborough said, Hillary is shouting her speech. She has the floor. A more conversational tone might be better for connecting with folks at home. And Joe Scarborough tweeted, smile, you just had a big night. So women are furious. Feminists, oh yeah, we never tell men to smile. You just, you're doing your toes to smile like you can own us like a woman. No. Here's the thing too. Okay, is it a criticism that's only lobbed at women? No. I tell that to you all the time when you're just, when you're sitting there and I'm like, what's wrong? If you're happy, you forgot to tell your face.
You're very sensitive, though. You're very sensitive.
I'm pretty sensitive. But it is true. Dennis Prager, who's brilliant, talks about how it's your moral obligation to be happy. And he makes a brilliant argument for it.
I don't think you had to paint that above like your doorway coming in, though. That was
I don't think it
cross the line there. That's
well, because I need a shot in the arm too with that when it happens. It's easy to get
shot in
negative.
The butt.
Yeah, shot in the butt. It's easy to get negative when you have when you live in this kind of a world we live in, right? So it's important, and it's not because of your happiness, but because of how it affects everybody around you.
Sure.
So is this a criticism that's only lobbed at Hillary Clinton? We have this up at louderwithcreditor.com, along with a Photoshop with some words that we can't say on terrestrial radio. No, people say it to men too. However, is it something that most men would think is more becoming of a woman? Yes. Do men generally like women who are happy? Yes. Is it... For a woman, does it come across as more bitchy for her to be serious and never smiling than a man? Yeah. Because for a man, men are often stern. Men aren't necessarily smiling.
Carly Fiorina got a lot of those.
She got a lot of the same criticisms.
Same criticisms early on.
But so is Rick Santorum. He's gotten that a lot, where he just comes across as grumpy, as curmudgeon-y.
That's true.
Yeah. A lot of people got it.
Rand Paul.
Rand Paul. Same thing with Rand Paul. Same thing with Bernie. It's gone around, but the truth is, listen, if you have a man, let's say a woman out there, and your husband says like, hey, why don't you smile? How about a smile, pussycat? That's not him being sexist. It doesn't mean he doesn't like you. He's trying to help you. For example, do men ever tell women, tuck in your shirt? No. How often has a wife said that to her husband? How often has a girlfriend said that? Why? Because when a man looks slobby, doesn't tuck in his shirt, I'm using it as an example, there could be something else, tie your shoes, I don't know. It is less attractive on a man in particular. Men like women who are happy as a general rule. That's not sexist. So if I like something and I'm saying, hey, why don't you do this? I think, it would make you more attractive. That's not someone who hates you. That's someone who wants you to do better. That's someone who's trying to improve you. And I think a big part of this, too, feminism is intertwined with the self-esteem generation. And this is something where my wife and I have gotten into arguments about this. Early on, not so much, but there's still this tendency in women is that, why can't you just love me the way I am? Listen, if someone wants to change certain things about you, it doesn't mean they don't love you. It means they love you more. It means there are things they want to improve. It doesn't mean they don't love you for who you are, but there are going to be things they don't like. For some reason, women get upset when you do it with them, but it doesn't count when they tell you they don't like it when you leave your nose hairs in the sink. But if you say, hey, you know what, maybe you should smile a little more, it's sexist. Now, that being said, I have no problem with sexist attacks towards Hillary. I think they're funny, and I think they should be done early and often, and will do them. But it was not sexist for someone to tell her to smile. Tweet me at @SCratter. Do you think it's sexist to tell a woman, hey, you're coming across as off-putting, you're coming across as shrill? Tweet me and let me know. I don't know. Have you ever run into that with anyone you know? Like,
yeah, and I think what's funny about when you go back to like the relationship thing is looking at different relationships in your life and realizing which ones define like love as, hey, if you love me, you'll accept me for exactly who I am and don't ask another thing of me. And then there's some. I'm much more the guy who said, hey, how can it be better for you? What can I do to change? And that's kind of more of a sign of love to me, is the improvement thing. I don't know if it's a guy and girl thing or not. It's
I know they always get mad if there's a criticism exclusive to women. Feminists say that's not fair, but there are plenty of criticisms exclusive to men. Now, that being said, this isn't one of those, right? Hey, you're coming across as yelling, shrill. It would help to smile. This has been lobbed toward men. But there are criticisms that probably only apply to women that don't apply to men a whole lot.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean it's sexist. It just means it only applies in one situation. Just like recognizing the difference between white and black people is not racist, right? David Duke is a racist. Someone who hates black people because
Thinks
of the melanin.
less of that
Thinks
person
less of
because
them.
of
Right.
X or Y factor.
And I know you'll get people here going, you're a conservative, why don't you acknowledge that black people are less intelligent, blah, 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 all that stuff. We get these people every now and then who come on. Listen, I'm just not your guy. Now, that being said, even if that were true, that's still not an argument. Because you know what? I don't think less of the special needs people who I work with. I don't think of them as less valuable as human beings.
You've always treated me pretty well.
I've treated you pretty well. I mean, Courtney treats us both very well.
This is true.
So
Very tolerant.
Just because, so not only can you recognize differences, but you can recognize that some races of people might be inferior in certain aspects of humanity. For example, white people are slower than black people. Every single world record in speed ever is a black person. I don't know why, but they've done it. That's not racist. In the same breath, you can say, well, Asians tend to do higher on IQ tests than black and white people.
I knew someone who genuinely grew up thinking black people had an extra muscle in their leg than white people.
That's a lot of people think that. They think there's something different in the way their tibia connects. So the point is,
been disproven to me.
It's true. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Is Lauren coming on after this? We have one more segment.
One more segment.
All right. So it's important. Same thing if you're going to talk about establishment. These umbrella terms we use a lot. I think that's what we should do for the next few shows. Let's define these terms that are thrown around. Racism, sexism, establishment, mass shooting. We'll talk about that after the break. If it's not legally defined, it's easy to manipulate. And that's where the left lives. We're going to break. Louder with Crowder. Stay tuned. Now, Dr. Ben Carson contemplates endorsing Donald Trump.
Mr. Trump, I'm very humbled and grateful that you asked me to endorse you, but I do have a few concerns.
Yes, frankly, this is a time to voice him, okay?
I know that some of what you've done is in the realm of political theater, like calling me a pedophile and what have you. But my main concern is that you will be consistent with principles that matter to me as a Christian conservative.
Okay, frankly, I'm going to stop you right there, okay? Because truthfully, I will read 2 Corinthians every day, right? Okay, because that's what it's all about. That's the whole thing right there, okay? Every day. I am so Christian. Okay, Frank, there's nobody more Christian than me. I'm the guy.
I believe you.
This has been Dr. Ben Carson contemplates endorsing Donald Trump. Okay, business time. Really simple. Some of you don't know where to find me. Louderwithcrowder.com. 6 to 10 articles every single day. Twitter. Follow me at @SCrowder. Louder with Crowder podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, or any other podcatching device. YouTube.com/Stephen Crowder, or you can type in Stephen Crowder on Facebook and be one of the 1 million+ fans, or join the mailing list. There are so many ways for you to stay connected. You have no excuse. You have no excuse, just like you have no excuse for those rolls that are just cascading over your belt buckle. You should be ashamed. Unless you're a lady, then you deserve get her a medal. We are back. Not Gay Jared thinks so. Close your curtain behind you. It's bothering me. It's all open and it looks like hell. So we were talking. I just got a direct message, which is rare during the live show, of someone who really liked what we were talking about. It wasn't quite clear in the last segment. They wanted that as a video clip. I was talking with my dad about this because we were talking about racism, sexism. It's people just throw it out there nowadays. You know who must be the most racist, sexist people on the planet? Are scientists.
Oh, okay. I was
Doctor, what were we going to say?
I'll say penguins. They come to mind as a little prejudice.
They're a little uppity.
They are a little bit. And then they try to disguise. They try to play it off because they're black and white.
Well, I was going to say
So-
more so because like they're always black tie formal.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where they go. That's the thing. You know, it's just like just every now and then we want to see you put your guard down, penguins. You don't need to wear the tuxedo. Just relax by the couch. Sit on an egg for a few weeks. You don't need the tuxedo.
What happened was they wore it once. People opened the doors for them, let them in the bank. They felt not judged for once, and then just couldn't. They ran with it.
I really do. Have you ever smelled a penguin exhibit?
Oh, we're still on penguins. You had this look like, oh, get serious now.
Have you ever smelled a penguin exhibit?
I have not.
It is particularly bad. I don't know if it's an oil, that makes them waterproof, the coating, but penguins are really, really smelly. Abnormally so, even in the bird kingdom. They're like the John Kasich of birds.
There we go.
They're like
right
the
back
John
around.
Kasich of flightless birds. Even among flightless birds, like
Just as useless as it gets.
they're also jerks. I have that stand-up bit. I don't usually talk about this on here, but you've seen it, where we're talking about all the cute animals and penguins, how they shove the nearest penguin off the iceberg to check for seals, which is really awkward for that penguin if there's a seal, but even worse if there
There's
isn't.
not.
It becomes bad. It's super awkward. It does. We'll talk if you come to the show in D.C. next week at American University. You'll be able to hear the bits. We go through sea otters, penguins, dolphins. Funny enough, in the stand-up, a lot of science in my stand-up. Because
There was. I remember that when I saw you live for the first time a few weeks ago. I
right.
walked away incredibly educated.
incredibly educated.
Appreciate that.
People learn a lot about dolphins and omega fatty acids and gluten,
Gluten
And
veganism,
veganism.
vegetarianism.
So, okay, so we're talking about this. It's important to learn these terms that are defined. Racism, sexism is an umbrella term. Establishment is an umbrella term that's thrown around a lot today. People say that about Marco Rubio.
Violence is another one that like gun violence, shooting
Gun
violence.
violence.
Violence is another one that just kind of
That people
encompasses anything
toss
they
it
want to or don't want to,
under the
especially
umbrella.
Christian social justice warriors. I will
Right.
throw that out there.
Yeah, violence I've talked about. Violence is not inherently immoral. It's not. Violence can be used to rape someone, or violence can be used to stop a rape. Just like money. Money is not immoral. We had a pastor one time get up. I remember when I was in Greenfield Park, Quebec, and he just berated rich people, talked about how bad they were. For some, I don't like the prosperity preaching thing in the Christian side, but I also don't like this whole nobility and poverty. That doesn't help anybody either, And he talked about how bad rich people were, and I think a millionaire only wants another million, and then passed the hat afterward to do missions work. And I made it a point to tell him why I wasn't giving him any money. I went out of my way to say, I worked really hard for it, which makes me a bad person. And he even, I remember, on the podium, what do you call it? Stage, podium, pulpit? I guess pulpit.
Pulpit, probably.
Misquoted the verse saying money is the root of all evil. That's not the verse. It's money is a root of all kinds of evil, meaning money is a potential one of many different roots.
If you back it up
and
to
it's
the beginning, the
love
love
of money. That's right. The love of money, which basically goes back to idolatry. So it's one of those things. You can take $1 million and you can put it out, use it to put a hit on somebody. Or you can take $1 million and you can give it to charity, or you can, help some people in need. Or you can take that $1 million and put it a hit out on somebody who needs it. I would never ever imply like John Kasich. I'm talking about someone like Coney, the warlords. So that's a good point. We've released a video this week, and it's picking up steam a lot. Vox released an anti-firearm, anti-Second Amendment video, and it went viral. Again, a lot of conservatives listening terrestrially probably haven't seen it, but young people have. It had a lot of plays. Up to 500,000 or something like that.
It's close to that, I think.
Pretty high. And I don't use the term propaganda lightly, okay? It's important for conservatives to understand this. Don't call someone you disagree with a liar. Generally give someone the benefit of the doubt. Because when you encounter a real liar, like a Hillary Clinton, it bolsters your argument. If they just go, well, that's just Donald Trump. He calls everyone a liar. He called Ted Cruz a liar. He's going to call Hillary Clinton a liar. You know what I mean? Donald Trump has called everyone a liar, so him calling Hillary Clinton a liar isn't going to be that helpful. If you call everyone a liar, it really does water down your argument. A lot of the time, people are just wrong. Like your friends, your social justice friends, they've been misled. You have to allow for that. It's one thing to get something wrong. It's one thing to proactively know the truth and ignore it. That's a lie. Vox did that. They pushed propaganda. They deliberately misled by, in this video, and we rebutted it, they included statistics that were overall gun deaths in the United States, and then they did per capita. And then they talked about gun ownership, but then they never showed per capita gun ownership across countries and their correlation with gun crime. The United States, bottom line, the United States does not have a gun problem with law-abiding citizens. We are not the top country in the world with gun-related homicides. 80% of our gun-related homicides are drug-related in some form or another. And with the increase in purchasing of guns that we've seen over the last decades, there's been a significant decrease in overall violent crime. So mass shootings is a term that leftists hide behind. Well, they don't really like to define it. Vox used several different definitions of mass shootings within their same video. But violent crime or gun-related homicide is a legal term. The FBI needs to have those statistics. So anytime you see somebody using terms like establishment or mass shooting or racism or sexism, anytime you notice a pattern of somebody using terms that are difficult to define or can be subjectively defined depending on their motive or depending on that situation, immediately you need to question it. And we'll have to talk more about this afterward, but I wanted to get to the establishment because John Boehner referred to Ted Cruz as Lucifer this week and wants to trot out Paul Ryan. Oh my gosh. I don't think Paul Ryan's a bad guy, but my gosh. Talk about a wimp. We'll talk more about that. We have Lauren Southern coming up after the break to talk about her run-in with angry feminists and the assault. Louder with Crowder. Stay tuned.
This is breaking news on Louder with Crowder. I'm Perry Matheson. We take you now to a Republican Party currently underway.
It's nice just to relax out
The
here.
cold air really contrasts with the water tonight.
Oh, it's just too much in there for me.
Oh, hey, there you guys are. You're... Oh, a hot tub. I didn't know we had one of those here. I would have brought my trunks. I tell you, there's nothing better than a good soak.
Yeah, that's right, John.
Though my doctor advises against it, on account of the hemorrhoids.
Oh, dear God.
But it looks like it's just us boys, so I think brief should work fine. Let me hop on in there.
No, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
You really don't have to do that.
And, it may seem counterintuitive, but the hot water really helps my IBS.
We'll keep you updated as the Republican Party progresses after this.
Whoa, Jared, what are you doing?
Shoot bad guys.
With what?
My AR-15.
Where'd you get it?
AR-15.com.
Oh, there's another one! You got him!
Yeah.
Thank God for AR-15.com. They have AR-15 and accessories for sale and the best advice there is on the web. Oh, no, there's another one! You got him!
Yeah.
With your what?
AR-15.
From where?
AR-15.com.
That's the best place to go, and that's the takeaway, because this commercial's about to stop!
I'ma do the things that I wanna do. I ain't got a thing to prove to you. I ain't gonna wear the clothes that you like. I don't give a hoot about what you think. Everyone likes to dance.
So glad to be back with our next guest. So she has been on the program before, but she was actually the news story herself as opposed to reporting the news this time. You can watch her on Rebel Media, of course, in Canada, or follow her if you are stateside at Lauren_Southern. Lauren Southern, thank you for being with us.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
Oh, geez, look, it's not nearly as early as last time. It looks like there's light.
Yes, there is. It's nice and light outside here.
Okay, so we have a bunch to get into here, but we were supposed to have you on, and sorry that we had to bump you, by the way. I think we explained it was just a rough couple of weeks. But you had a little bit of a run-in yourself, so I want to know if there's something developing here. But for people who don't know, you went to a feminist rally, as you always do. You're very polite, much more polite than I am, and there was a little bit of a kerfuffle. There was a dust-up, a hootenanny that happened. Explain to the audience.
This one actually wasn't a feminist rally. This was supposedly an anti-fascist rally. There was supposed to be a speaker in Canada, And I don't know if he's a fascist or not. I was just curious to see what he had to say. He's running for the Libertarian Party in the States. Augustus Sol Invictus, very controversial guy. And he was actually blocked from coming into the country. And his whole event was canceled because anti-fascists supposedly decided to shut down his free speech, shut down the forum, everything, because they are so against fascism, right?
1 second. So the anti-fascist protesters, these were people banning the guy from speaking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It's very interesting. And they had posted on their Facebook page that if he did end up getting into the country to speak, they were going to be throwing feces at him. They were going to attack him. One of the comments on the page actually said, the left needs to stop being afraid of using violence against opinions they don't like.
I don't think the left has ever been afraid of using violence against opinions they don't like. Like, that didn't even require an announcement. It's just stating a factual reality.
Right. So a lot of the people who were going to be going to the speech, there were just a lot of libertarians in the area, including myself, and we decided to go for drinks that evening. And the anti-fascist protesters still showed up to just our drink night in the area where the speech was supposed to be, dressed fully in balaclavas with cameras. They were all covering their faces in all black. If I were standing across the street, I would have thought they were supposedly the fascists.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
And we got into a bit of a discussion with them. We're like, you guys are calling yourselves anti-fascists and you're shutting down people's forum to free speech. How does that add up? Like, we're all very pro-speech people. Why not go challenge this guy's ideas if you don't agree with him? Why not actually have a discussion? And I saw a few of the girls there. I was just there to record. I had a friend there who does some recording for me every once in a while. So I was just recording the conversation at first. But then I saw one of the girls who was at the slut walk who had published a ton of slander about me online. She had sent a letter to my boss. She had sent a letter to leaders of the Libertarian Party, to
what's her
friends
name?
and family of mine. Oh, something, Natasha Cadillo, I believe. I don't know how to pronounce that.
That's just not Gay Jared's
French.
pseudonym. That's just his online pseudonym. He's just messing with you.
Oh, you fell for it.
Oh.
Gotcha.
Troll.
Good fat suit you got there.
Troll level alpha. Okay. Oh, is she big? Well, that's true. She's a lot bigger than that, Gay Jared. They outweigh. He would not do well in a feminist MMA tournament. He couldn't make the weight. He'd be too light. Okay. So this girl has been harassing you for a long time. I want to get to the...
But yeah,
okay,
we got
sorry.
into a discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like to play victim and say I'm harassed.
I don't mean harass. Okay,
right?
she's been a horrible witch with a capital B to you. Is that okay? Can I say that?
That's fair.
You're not a victim. She's just rude, and she should smile more because I'm a sexist. So this girl is there, and bring us to, I guess, the sort of climax here for people who don't know, because it's a good one.
So we got into a discussion on gender politics. And one of the girls said for something, we need to be feminists for all the genders. And I'm like, oh, so men and women, right? And so 2 genders. And that just, they snapped. They were like, what are you talking about? That is so transphobic. How can you say that? I don't understand how it's transphobic, considering I don't know if trans people want to be their own separate third gender or want to be male or female. It was all very confusing for me. But
well, you have lots of trans friends. You're the one who introduced us to Theron Meyer, who we had on the show. And you're far more progressive on that front. So the last person I'd peg as transphobic is you, simply for saying male and female.
Right, well, that's what I accidentally did. I was like, my trans friends wouldn't consider me transphobic. And they're like, that's like saying you have a black friend, so you're not a racist.
But it's a perfectly legitimate argument. If you have a bunch of black friends, if you hang out, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Theron was there that night for drinks, if you're there with one of your best friends who's a transsexual, transgender, that means you probably don't hate them. Just because they say that, it doesn't make it a less valid argument.
Well, no, you're obviously hanging out with all your black and trans friends on leashes, just...
Right. Well, I wouldn't... In the trans community, that's just Tuesday.
This is true. This is true. If
Okay.
they want it, then it's all right.
Yes.
But anyways, I'm like, how is this controversial, saying there are only 2 genders? And I just feel something pour over me and screaming around me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, did someone just pour something on me? And I'm drenched. And the guy beside me says, you smell like you reek of piss, Lauren. And the feminists around me start laughing and pointing at me and saying, go to hell. I hope that washed the scum off you. And I'm just like, I start laughing.
Well, urine is sterile. So they have it. They're not wrong. It can be cleansing.
Okay.
Do you
So-
do you think it was actually urine? Because I know someone said that, but do you believe it was? Did you smell it? What do you have any kind of proof, or is it just a hunch?
Like I said, I've said it online. I don't expect anyone to believe a single thing I say unless I have 100% substantial evidence. What I do have is the people that were beside me, that were the witnesses, that said they're almost 100% positive it's urine. And I actually am talking to someone from a testing lab right now on Facebook who we've kept my cameraman's clothes in a bag for, it's been like 2 weeks now. I don't know if it'll still be able to be tested, but he's kept it like Monica Lewinsky's blue dress, and we're going to see if we can get it tested. Until then, I have no problem with people just saying it was pop.
Can you do that?
Because I'm not someone... the girl I'm talking to said you can, so we will try our best to get 100% evidence, but I don't expect anyone to believe me until I actually...
If there were ever any burden of... you ever needed any more evidence as to the unrealistic standard of burden of proof with conservatives, Lauren Southern, ladies and gentlemen, she has her urine-soaked clothing in a bag, which she will take to the lab, whereas feminists just yell rape on at Columbia campus, and it's written up, or Virginia, what was it, University of West Virginia was Rolling Stone? I
think so.
Columbia got New York Times.
Gosh.
That's all they need. She needs to have Morgan Freeman from The Dark Knight and a secret underground lab to prove that someone peed on her.
The best thing is that there's somebody, some woman, some hag of a feminist somewhere right now watching this going, I shouldn't have done that.
They're onto us, Carl! Sorry, what was that, Lauren?
You know, that is the really funny thing about this all. That's probably my favorite part, is the reaction online on Twitter from left-wing media in Canada was all of them saying, well, she was probably lying because she probably paid, Ezra Levant probably paid someone to go and dump urine on her head. They're all saying that I've created this false playground, and it's just hilarious because suddenly #BelieveWomen does not apply to me. It's some false flag that I paid someone to pour urine on me and I'm lying about it. And I told them all, I'm like, you know what? I wish you had this level of skepticism when dealing with other cases with females telling stories. This is great. Now we know you have the capability of being skeptical and questioning women's stories. Now apply it across the board.
Yes, that is good. You were really coming into your own. You know, the first time you were on, she was a little bit more shy, and you seem like you're more fluid now. Do you feel like you're getting more comfortable with the media thing? Because you're really young. I mean, you're still in school. Do you feel like you've grown leaps and bounds? Did you think the urine was like the elixir?
Oh, thank you, Stephen. Yeah, no, I'd say I'm a little more comfortable with it. Yeah, I'm only 20. A lot of people think I'm like 30. It's insane, but...
It's the makeup. It's hard to guess with women. With men, the age shows. With women, it's just hard.
I'm just cheating, yes.
Yeah, it's a tough guess. Sorry, go ahead.
It's good, though, because when people think you're a little older, they give you a little more respect to your opinions. I think it should be the substance of the argument, but unfortunately people do make that judgment based on age as well.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, when I signed, that Fox, I was 21. When I did the Just for Laughs, we were just talking about that with Mike Ward, I was 18, but nobody ever found out until afterward. Matter of fact, the little gray that I have here, I've had this since 21. So when I was 21, people assumed I was, 28, and I'm 28. People assumed typically somewhere around there. So, the one thing I don't like is when young people use it as a gimmick. And that was one thing I never wanted to do, because I had to introduce little conservatives at CPAC who were 14. And I remember talking with the organizers saying, this is only going to end badly. And
most of them did.
All of them did. Every single one of them did. But Lauren's, I didn't know she was 20. Did you know she was 20?
I thought she was like 22, 23.
Oh, okay.
So there you go, Lauren. Yeah, you could drink, in my opinion of you.
She can drink, yeah. Well, in Canada, she can anyway.
That's true.
So urine, is there any ramifications at all? You're not going to press charges? You're just going to...
No, the police did contact me because the small Asian girl that was with me there, we went out for drinks earlier. She's a candidate for the Libertarian Party. She put in a police report just to make sure that it was there, and they contacted me to press charges. I told them I wasn't really interested in going forward because it would be a 1 to 2 year court case just because of how backed up the system is.
Sure.
And that system's probably backed up from feminists filing assault charges from tweets they get. So I'm not about to slow down that system even more for something that I just had to take a shower for. I can ignore tweets. I can take showers when people throw piss on me. It is not that big of a deal. I'm not about to play professional victim, and I'm getting very tired of this culture where people run and whine to the police when they are bumped in a crowd or have a drink spilt on them. I don't want to be that person. Even though this was maliciously done, I honestly just don't care that much.
That's true. I understand someone says, the difference obviously when I was repeatedly punched in the face. That's a little bit more extreme. Oh yeah, this is at the Union rally in Detroit. That's where in Lansing. Sorry, this happened a while ago, and that's where I get a little bit peeved when people go violence at school. Or, even Milo, God bless him, sometimes can be dramatic with that when they're just yelling out, they hate you. I'm like, well, that's not really assault. Someone who was like viciously assaulted, and I didn't even want to file a report, and it depends on the prosecuting attorney. It's a really corrupt legal system. Yeah, like you said, some people really can bog it down. They probably saw your name and said, it's another feminist. Put it in a pile with the others. So we want to continue on that train of thought. Can we keep you for one more segment?
Yeah, definitely.
Lauren Southern. No, wait. Oh, you were saying 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
I thought you were saying 20 seconds. Jared doesn't have consistent signaling.
This is true.
Okay, so you were saying that, and I want to get into that because I noticed you tweeted a lot about the Breitbart controversy. Shut up, Jared. With Michelle Fields. Now, I understand where you're coming from. She wasn't hurt. However, there was Lewandowski lied and said she wasn't there. He never met her. She's a drama queen, and Tedis wasn't there. And of course, they were there, and he was talking to them. So there are lies there, and you don't put your hands on a journalist for asking an unfavorable question. Is it a violent assault? No, I think there's exaggeration. But where do you line up on that? Can you see both of those sides?
Well, the issue, I don't think it was an assault at all. I've had the exact same thing happen to me while asking questions to popular figures being pushed out of the way. I've had worse things happen to my cameramen who have gotten bumped in things while they were filming things with other journalists around, and that's just the life of a journalist, right? But with this one specifically, both sides obviously bugged me. The biggest thing that bugged me is when it comes to pressing charges over it. The charges are being pressed because she says she didn't get an apology. If your judgment of what is criminal or not...
There aren't charges being pressed.
Is she not? Okay, well...
A criminal
didn't
complaint.
She say, criminal complaint. If your judgment of what is criminal or not is based on whether you get an apology or not, it isn't that serious.
Well, I don't think in her and I don't know Michelle Fields. I know Ben, obviously, and he's a friend, obviously, and there's a lot of inside baseball that I try and avoid on the program. Well, we have to go to break. Let's talk about it when we come back, because I think there's a lot to dive into there, and I think you're right about most of it. You're giving... See, now you're changing the signals. Louder with Crowder. We'll be back with Lauren Southern. Stay tuned.
Jesse, former governor of Minnesota, Ventura here, the bod. Going back to my original thought from earlier in the program, there's also rumors that the GOP establishment hacks might try and trot out none other than Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney's a hack who never served his country in an underwater demolitions unit like Jesse the Bod, and he has been an integral part of the government putting fluoride in your tap. Know the facts.
Hey, Crowderheads, if you're listening to this on iTunes or SoundCloud, or maybe on the YouTube live stream, because that's a thing now, you're missing so much content at louderwithcrowder.com. That's actually the bulk of what me and my glorious team, not Gay Jared notwithstanding, do on a daily basis, anywhere from 4 to 10 articles a day with commentary, videos, GIFs, images, and it's all free. So if you want to be up to date on the news and entertained, just add louderwithcrowder.com to your RSS feed. Go check it every day. It's free. You get to support the site, and then, maybe we'll give you some free stuff. I don't know, maybe free college. What are they promising? Free college? Healthcare? I don't know. They're promising, we'll give you that. Just bookmark it, and we'll give it to you. That's a promise.
When it's time to party, we will party hard.
All right, we are back, of course, with none other than Lauren Southern. Watch her on Rebel Media if you are in Canada, on the internets, or follow her on Twitter at Lauren_Southern. Southern, glad to have you back. Okay, we got some tweets during the break. Lauren, someone said, one of the biggest fans of the show, of course, Jimmy Chewbacca said, please tell us Lauren isn't a Trumpy, which I know we talked about last time. So I know you're libertarian, but you also enjoy the alt-right. So that's got to be conflicting for you.
The issue here is I haven't commented much on Trump over the past about a month ago. I didn't really comment on Trump much, but over the past month, I just have these people on my feed that are so vitriolic towards him. Will literally block you if you say anything remotely positive or in defense of him. And I'm finding myself being forced to defend him.
That's a total opposite. I'm sorry. All I get is like, the cuck thing, and we've talked about that. I mean,
Well,
but I understand where you're coming from too. From the left, the rally thing makes me have to defend him. But you also have to acknowledge that if you're going to get mad at Michelle Fields, Trump threatening to sue Ted Cruz unless he apologizes for using Trump's quotes, you would have to say that's also problematic, right?
Problematic. I hate that word. Yeah, of course.
Okay, dick move. Illegal.
I mean, it's very hard for me. Obviously, I would want someone who is more libertarian. Obviously, I would want
but you would say
smaller
that's a
government,
problem specifically, right? Threatening to sue Ted Cruz if he doesn't apologize for running an ad of Trump's quotes side by side.
Yeah, that's petty. It's very petty.
Right.
And there are very petty things going back and forth in this entire election. However, I can't say I hate Trump. I don't hate him. I think he's really shifted the Overton window of the discussion in political campaigns.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. I think that's something that needed to happen. And if he is the nominee for the Republicans, I don't think I will pull a #NeverTrump. I think I would probably back him if he was chosen as the nominee.
Yeah, well, I think for the vitriolic hatred, I've never done the never Trump thing. I think the vitriolic hatred, though, that you're experiencing, multiply that by 10, and that's people who don't openly support Trump, who are conservatives. I mean, my issue is, when I get emails from people saying that if you don't get in line for Trump, people like you need to be purged from conservative media, that's where I go, now I have to. Now I have to be truthful about everything. I mean, you've heard this show. We've insulted literally everybody on the program, including Ted Cruz for a long time.
I do see where a lot of the people who are, I see where you're coming from when it comes to the whole, you're getting conservative all the time. Yesterday, I got at least 100 tweets of from people with the Trump hat profiles calling me a filthy Jew. I'm not even Jewish.
I get that all the time, too, yeah. Must be horrible for Shapiro, because he's actually Jewish. He's got a thick skin, but it still must irk him a little bit.
See, I don't know what to do. It's the strangest thing because it feels like I'm a white person walking down the street being called the N-word, and I'm kind of like, should I be offended? Should I?
No, the general is never be offended. Never be offended. Yeah, that's the thing. I like that about Trump, too, with the rally. So back to the Michelle Fields thing. I understand where you're coming from. That's why I use the Trump comparison. She didn't threaten to sue unless he apologizes. She didn't press charges, filed a criminal complaint.
Okay,
she said her reasoning. And this is, again, why truth matters to me. Because, like Kasich, we just ragged on him all show. I can't stand him. But the idea that George Soros gave him $500,000 is not true. Someone who worked for George Soros, financial fund, who's a longtime Republican donor, gave $200,000 to John Kasich's PAC. Okay? I don't like John Kasich. I don't want to defend him, but that's truth. That still matters. Michelle Fields said she felt the need to file a criminal complaint because she was thrown under the bus by her employers, and they ran the lie that she was never even at the event or misidentified him. So she said she felt she was pressed.
That's her employers, not Lewandowski. And I can understand why. This is one thing I can't understand.
No, but she said she had to do it because if her employers are going to run something that was verifiably false, she felt the need to go on record saying this is what happened and I can prove it. So that was her argument. And I think that's what Ben lined up.
We'll see what comes from that. But I don't think that Lewandowski was malicious when he did that. I think he was moving right out of the way. I don't think that someone would genuinely think to themselves, hey, I'm Trump's campaign manager. You know what would be a great idea? Grabbing the arm of a journalist who's probably going to write a hit piece on me after this and bruising it. I don't think he thought that at all. I don't think if he could go back and not even go near her, I think he would have done that. I also understand why the Trump campaign didn't apologize, because if they apologized, they would have been admitting to nearly pulling her to the ground, which from the video, the only video we have that really shows what happened, that was not the case at all. She was not nearly pulled to the ground, which has been repeated on Fox News by Shapiro, which has been stated by Michelle herself in her Breitbart article. So the exaggeration
Well, she said he yanked her really. Yeah, there's exaggeration. And like I said, as someone who has been punched in the face repeatedly on camera, that always bothers me. But I do think that if people want to get mad at Barack Obama for not allowing Fox News, Donald Trump is absolutely the single most authoritarian candidate in modern history when it comes to journalism. He just bans them, doesn't give you the right to be there, and they retracted it, but I tend to believe the initial story when they said, if we'd have known it was a Breitbart reporter, we wouldn't have done that. What is wrong is in any instance, you see, everyone was asking him, the presidential candidate, questions to grab her and single her out because it was an uncomfortable question. That is something that, in the United States, same reason we have the First Amendment on free speech, freedom of the press is just as important, and that is an issue. And then when someone lies about it, I have a problem with it. I do agree with you. She probably wasn't hurt and wasn't anywhere near thrown to the ground. But that's not okay.
Yeah. I'd have to, I don't know if it was specifically because it was an uncomfortable question. If that was the case, obviously I'd like to hear Trump's opinions on all questions. I'd like him to answer those.
Right.
However, yeah, the exaggeration, it was a non-story until you had the audio tape and the exaggerations released. If it were just that small video clip that was released, no one would have cared. If it were not Lewandowski that did that, and if it were a Secret Service agent, no one would have cared. It was because it was a public figure, and I'm finding a lot of the people that really, really hate Trump are just jumping on this and saying it was an assault.
I think you've made a lot of assumptions there. To be fair, Ben Shapiro has supported Trump for a long time on a lot of issues and now doesn't, and he had a problem with that. Ben Shapiro is a Harvard Law grad.
I listen to him a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about Shapiro at all.
Right.
I listen to Shapiro all the time. I don't think he's right on this issue.
But I'm saying people like him. They wouldn't not care if it were someone else. If Barack Obama's people did that because someone asked Barack Obama about Bill Ayers, I think they'd have a problem with it. I don't know, but I agree with you. There's exaggeration all around, and this campaign is a circus. Here, oh gosh, we have to go to break. Lauren Southern, we'll bring you back soon and talk more about urine when you get the lab analysis. We'll be back.
All right.
Loser in his, her, or Z's mother's basement watching this on the YouTube live stream. Listen, YouTube is great, but it's not always super convenient if you're on the go. That's why this show, which is actually syndicated as a radio show, is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, or any kind of podcatcher that you Android users for free. Just search Louder with Crowder, find it, subscribe. You get the full show and some exclusive content that you actually won't hear on YouTube, including giveaways, extra commercials, me beating Not Gay Jared within an inch of his life, but it's okay. He always comes back into work so I can fire him. So iTunes, SoundCloud, or Podcatcher, get the full show and listen to Louder with Crowder on the go. If you don't, you're probably a racist rapist.
This is breaking news on Louder with Crowder. I'm Perry Matheson. We take you now to a Republican Party currently underway.
Yeah, I know. I just don't even know what we're gonna do with
such a hard situation.
Is that John Kasich out there?
No small hands here.
Oh my God!
We'll keep you updated as the Republican Party progresses after this.
You've found yourself at the junction where worlds meet. Politics.
Civility? How about honesty in this country, folks?
Entertainment.
I don't like entertainment.
And a whole bunch of other stuff.
It's about having a healthy body image. You have a very unhealthy body. You should have a horrible body image.
Not a big home improvement market in Detroit.
We are definitely going to get letters.
You're listening to Talk Radio's Strangest Animal.
You're a strange animal, that's what I know.
You're getting louder with Crowder.
But you're a strange animal, I got to follow. Oh, I'm in the spiritus.
All right, we're back in the third hour. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we have Courtney Kirchhoff. Courtney Scoffs on Twitter for people to follow and read her article about why, dear Bernie Sanders voters, you are not men.
Amen.
Pretty incendiary. Of course, producing with me in studio, as always, is Not Gay Jared. You can follow him on Twitter. He is not gay. I fulfilled all my legal obligations. Draw your own conclusions. So we've been talking about defining words a lot this week. And Lauren was on. And I think Lauren is pretty balanced in her approach on the Trump side, which I appreciate. I think we try to be too. I mean, if people go back before the Trump surge, we got so much crap for being critical of Ted Cruz, where we were saying, because at that point we didn't think he was the best guy to win a general, right? Even at this point, he's not the best guy to win a general. The numbers we have say he would probably be better than Trump, but I fully acknowledge he's not the best guy out there to win a general election. I think we had some other choices who could have done better. And people got so mad at us for saying that. People get so mad when it's finally their candidate. Who would you say had the best sense of? Probably Ted Cruz. People have a better sense of humor.
Then
I'm trying to think. Rubio people were really upset when we made fun of Rubio. Rand Paul supporters would get upset. Donald Trump supporters can't handle any of it. Who would you say handled it in with the best spirit?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't think Carly Fiorina really had enough of a following when we were kind of, talking about her. I don't think none of them really stick out in my mind as people who can really didn't care. I don't know.
I would say now between Trump and Cruz, I think the Cruz people are more open to jokes and criticism.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just the debate one with the people thought he was eating a booger. If you type in Ted Cruz eats a booger on YouTube, it's the first thing that pops up from the debate. Sure. And I don't know if he ever addressed it.
I don't know if
he ate it, but I don't know if he ever addressed it.
It's one of those things you just don't want to address.
No.
You just go.
But could you imagine?
Move on down the trail.
Could you imagine if that happened to Trump, though?
Oh, my gosh. People would just
that,
be, you're getting focus off the issues.
I'm still thinking about that little scary guy just kind of going around and never really quite cooperating.
On his lip?
Yeah.
Ted Cruz.
So
it is
funny.
a really weird clip. But a term that's thrown around now, right? Establishment, when we're talking about brokered, contested convention. So that's a term that's not really defined. Like Marco Rubio, people say establishment. Listen, Marco Rubio, I can't stand that he was a part of the Gang of Eight, okay? That bothers me. But he took out Charlie Crist. That was the seat he took. If you want to talk about establishment, look up the definition. Crist is the person you'll see next to it. John Boehner, Mitch McConnell. These are people. John McCain, of course. People who are career politicians. You need to define the term establishment, because when you have the establishment saying Ted Cruz is Lucifer and saying they think they might be able to cut deals with Donald Trump, the term has lost all meaning. It's a term that is used right now. If you hear someone using it a lot without defining it, and we don't really use that term on here very much. I will use it when talking about John Boehner. I will use it when talking about someone like a Mitch McConnell. Jeb Bush, yes,
Paul
the Bush
Ryan.
dynasty. Paul Ryan now, but there was a time where he wasn't. I just think he's a pansy. I just don't like Paul Ryan. I don't hate him. I just don't personally like him. But we don't want to destroy all Republicans. You don't want to destroy all conservatives. I wrote about that. Listen, Ted Cruz has to go back to the Senate. Okay, now if you're going to call him just a liar, those are character assaults that go back with him to the Senate. The guy has a 97% consistency rating, more than any politician in modern American history. If you believe he's a liar, then there is no one who's honest. Marco Rubio, he probably won't go back, because unlike Ted Cruz, that's actually a big study in the difference of winning and losing your home state. People who voted for Ted Cruz in Texas, now I know that necessarily wouldn't play well in a general, people who voted for him got what they wanted, and so Ted Cruz won by a significant margin in his home state. People who voted for Rubio in Florida felt a little bit betrayed. Now, do I think Marco Rubio is not conservative? Here's the thing. He's been pretty consistent on a lot of other issues, and he made a big mistake with the Gang of Eight. You need to look at the context of what happened there. Barack Obama said, if someone gave me some comprehensive immigration reform, something bipartisan, I would sign it tomorrow. And I think Marco Rubio thought he was calling his bluff, and he did, and it didn't go through. So it was wrong, but it's not the same as a Boehner or a McCain or a Kasich who has consistently
concede.
Well, not even concede, proactively plotted
yeah.
against Republicans and conservatives. But man, if you want to talk about destroying the establishment, so let's talk about the establishment. People who are career politicians, people who want to be moderate, people who want to make deals, people who tell you you need to be reasonable in government, who don't really believe that you can repeal, who don't really believe that you can defund, those are establishment people. Those people have always hated Ted Cruz. If you want to talk about burning down the establishment, I don't think there could be any more. To talk about rubbing salt in a wound would be a brokered convention, putting it into a head-to-head, and the delegates repledge to Ted Cruz, and they have to back Ted Cruz, who stood up on stage and called them liars. Now remember, he called Mitch McConnell a liar, and John Boehner called him Lucifer. Donald Trump said, I had a very good call with Mitch McConnell. Can you believe how rude Ted Cruz is to Mitch McConnell? Remember, Donald Trump sided with Mitch McConnell when Ted Cruz said he was a liar. The reason John Boehner thinks Ted Cruz is Lucifer is because of his staunch opposition trying to repeal Obamacare and the government shutdown. So the reason John Boehner, for example, if someone calls Ted Cruz Lucifer, a liberal, because Ted Cruz is remarkably pro-life, well, okay, you expect that. But John Boehner is mad at Ted Cruz for doing the things that everyone, whether you're voting Trump or Cruz, you hope they do, right? I think most people voting Trump would still, I would like to think, you still probably aren't a huge fan of Obamacare. You still probably aren't upset with the government shutdown. You probably want to decrease spending. I think most Trump voters want that, right? I don't think Trump voters are necessarily liberal. I think they believe some things in Trump that I don't. But I think people voting for Trump or Ted Cruz want those things. They just happen to believe one person over the other. John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan hate Ted Cruz because he has stood for those things that you want in a candidate. So that's important to note. So when defining establishment, you have to know who they are, why they hate the people that they hate, and then say, okay, if that's my problem within the party right now, who do I believe will stick it to them or deconstruct the establishment the most? If your goal is to upset and you hate the establishment. Again, I'm not telling you how to
I think
vote.
it's silly, too, when people just act like the establishment must all be in one mindset about what they want, either. I mean, these are a lot of different people. What Gingrich wants could be completely different than what Bob Dole thinks, any agenda he might have up his sleeve. So it's kind of like you talk about it like this big boogie monster that's out to get, that's this one, it's like the Nazi regime, all kind of, intertwined and coordinated and, posed to get something or get what they want. To act like they probably agree is probably not true. There's a lot of them to do.
It's like the fake moon landing or Area 51. At some point, if there's a conspiracy that big, someone's going to talk. That's why the only conspiracy that I really give any credence is the Clintons killing people, because no one can talk because they're dead. So it's the most plausible.
And there's that place out there in California where they all get together and sing Kumbaya.
Oh, Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
There is Bohemian Grove. That does exist for sure. And that's for people who don't know, it's a weird thing. And they burn this coffin and effigy to this kind of owl-looking god. It really is weird.
Because why not?
Because why not? But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're meeting with globalists who are trying to put fluoride in your tap as a government form of mind control. It could just be a fraternity for really rich and powerful people, like Skull and Bones, or like the Freemasons. I mean, that's not a conspiracy, right? You can say these things exist, but to make the leap that they're sacrificing people or they're all having secret meetings to take over the world, that's a leap that, for me, requires a little bit of substantiation if we're hopping on board that crazy train. So hopefully this has helped, where people throw around the term establishment. My only thing, I don't want to tell you, listen, I don't want to tell you how to vote. I don't want to tell you who to vote for. We're riling up. I've been honest about it. I really felt the need to defend Donald Trump with the rally issue. Listen, free speech is free speech. Here's the deal. And this is what bothered me about Ted Cruz. If we're talking about lobbying. When Ted Cruz came out, first off, the first thing he did was condemn the violent protesters. So if you're not aware of that, check your news source. Because the first thing Ted Cruz said is they need to be held accountable. And then he said, but the environment from a campaign comes from the top down. Which I think he fired his guy when the guy, what was his name? Oh, gosh, I forgot the name of the guy who tweeted the thing about Marco Rubio.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember.
I forgot his name. There's so many names now. He fired him because he thought it was wrong. So that's what he said. I wish he hadn't said that, though. I wish he would have just talked about the protesters and how wrong they were, because that was a real opportunity. What I would have advised him to say is, okay, listen, they're going to try and say you're anti-free speech, which he's not if you look at how he acted as a lawyer. He should have said, listen, your speech, whatever you say, regardless of how offensive, is protected under the First Amendment. Acts of unprovoked violence are not. Period. Whatever side you line up. That's what you say. Now, the one thing with the Trump rally is, when you do say, punch a guy and I'll pay your legal fees, we've had to defend against the silly leftist argument of you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. And I've always said, well, that's because that's a call to action. That's not speech. That's encouraging people to do something which could in turn be dangerous or deadly. Are you getting into that territory when offering to pay someone legal fees for committing assault? One could argue that. And it makes it hard for free speech advocates to say, no, there's a complete solid leg to stand on here. But those protesters in Chicago, the left, they need to be, you need to take direct aim on them. No pity. And you cannot excuse it, regardless of whether you like Trump or not. That was just a horrible, horrible example of modern progressivism in American politics. And we'll talk more about that after the break.
Now, Dr. Ben Carson contemplates endorsing Donald Trump.
Of course, Mr. Trump, there's also the concern that you've praised single-payer or nationalized healthcare plans as recently as only several months ago. And I would need to, in clear conscience, believe that you've had a change of heart on said issue.
Listen, okay, frankly, that was a different time. That was when Canada was doing great. Now Canada, what? What do they do? What's Canada doing? They're doing nothing, okay? So I could change with that. All right, I don't need a plan like Canada. It worked for a time. It doesn't work now. I am going to do so much, Ben. I am going to do so much for healthcare. You're a sir. I'm your guy.
Good enough for me.
This has been Dr. Ben Carson contemplates endorsing Donald Trump. Hey, if you're listening to or watching this podcast, there's a strong chance that you are not yet following me on Twitter @SCrowder, where I'm tweeting all day long. I'm ticking off the social justice warriors. You should see the amount of hate I get on there. Far, far, far worse than any fat Sports Illustrated model or Black Lives Matter charlatan. So listen, it's free, you get to be entertained, and you can chime in. Also, if you're following me on Twitter, you can send me your tweets, and maybe you'll be lucky enough, and I mean lucky enough because I have a lot of followers, okay, that they call me the follower machine, to have your tweet to me, or Not Gay Jared, included in our rockinest tweet of the week. So follow me on Twitter @SCrowder. If not, I don't want to say I have sights on your mother, but... Oh, she's dead? You're just saying that because I made a mom joke. No, she's really dead? Well, you kind of walked into it.
I'ma do the things that I wanna do. I ain't got a thing to prove to you. I ain't gonna wear the clothes that you like. I don't give a hoot about what you think.
All right, before I bring on our next guest, who is a regular, someone tweeted me, Stephen, watching your show on YouTube, what would be your response to people who say that Trump is Hitler? That's just silly. It's just silly. Listen, Trump doesn't have to be my guy to defend him from baseless attacks. Just like I don't have to like John Kasich to say, don't lie about the fact that Soros gave him a bag of cash. That's also not true. So I just think truth, I don't know. I just think truth matters more than all of this. And I think all around.
Old-fashioned hippie, you.
My old-fashioned hippie. Okay, we have to bring on our next guest. And when you hear this, you know. That means that it's @Courtney Scoffs on Twitter. Courtney Kirchhoff, are you with us?
Oh, yes.
Oh, look at
Here
you.
I am.
You're all tanned.
It's true.
From the vacation. That's right.
Hawaii.
Courtney
People
got
comment every week how I look like a ghost.
You?
Yeah.
That's
I
because you have
try to blame the white balance. I just haven't figured it out yet.
No, really, he has no soul.
That's true.
There you go. Oh, Courtney, and we don't even have to tell her to smile because she already is. Look at that. Okay, we polled that. Do you think that's sexist when people say, "Hey, Hillary, you should probably smile more"? If a guy says, "Hey, you have a pretty smile. You should smile more."
That's nice. I like it when people tell me I have a pretty smile.
What if
Even
someone
if it's a guy.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Right from her. Speaking of guys, you penned a letter this week from a female perspective to Bernie Sanders. I've written about this several times from a male perspective, and then we got on the phone, and you went into a rant, and I said, this needs a female perspective. So tell people, it's called, what do I have it? Dear men who vote Bernie Sanders, you're not men at all. And you received so much hate mail.
I did, from a lot of men who somehow were trying to defend their manhood by saying, no, but really I am a man. Just because I want Bernie Sanders doesn't mean I'm not a man. Like, okay, I'm not even gonna give that a response. I only have time for real men if I'm gonna respond to a tweet or a Facebook message or an email. Like, no. I even had some wives like, well, my husband works, he's full-time and he volunteers, but he's voting for Bernie Sanders, and how dare you? Like, really?
Yeah, I don't think your husband's volunteering. I think you can go on down to the local gay bar and find him ducking you. That's what I think. Okay, so you wrote this, and I've talked about this. I don't believe that in 2016 you can be a man and be an actual full-fledged progressive. I don't mean be kind of like a liberal, maybe pro-abortion or things. I mean full-on Bernie socialist. I've written about that. What was your main point here in this article that people hated you so much?
Well, the idea that men have to provide for themselves and provide for their family, I can see myself on the camera, and it's very distracting.
Because she's so good looking. That's why.
Oh,
like, I got this
it.
tan. I got the vitamin D. Watch, this is going to become a GIF, and then everyone the rumors of
do it
me
again.
being
Full
gay.
shot. There you go.
All right, go ahead, Courtney. Try not to be distracted.
Yeah. Men don't need other men to provide for them or their families. They also don't need a politician to demand that other people demand that their tax dollars be taken to give to other people who refuse to work for them, to work for themselves. So real men provide for themselves, provide for their families. They don't whine. They don't say it's not fair that so-and-so has more. They don't excuse why they're not successful or blame it on white privilege. They don't do that. They say, screw it. I see a challenge accepted. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to be successful despite all of these things that I have going against me. Bernie Sanders voters don't do that. They believe Barack Obama. They believe Bernie Sanders when they say, oh, the deck is stacked against you. You didn't build that. We can help you. You deserve your fair share. And these rich people who've just glided through life, they're gonna pay for you. It's okay. We're gonna take care of you. That's not a man. That's a pussy. And I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry.
Well, I don't think we have to beep that.
No.
You don't have to. No, I think it's only if I'm referring to the anatomy.
Yeah, stop it, because I know Courtney will go there. She's a lady, but she's a lady who's willing. She will go there. And I don't want her to go there right now. Yeah, I agree with you. And I just don't have a lot in common with guys like that. And I think you can have it with wealthy people, too. I mean, I think you see that with rich guys who feel they have to prove because some things have been handed to them as opposed to people who are self-built. But particularly, it is the ideology of a Bernie voter. To subscribe to it, you have to believe that someone else is pulling the strings and it's not in your control. And I just see that as anti-rugged individualist. But as a woman, does it actually, like, could you ever date a leftist?
No, I don't think so. No.
You choked on your words.
If I were to see like a guy pull up in a Prius with a Bernie Sanders sticker or a Darwin fish instead of the Jesus fish, we're done.
Really?
We're done.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't. And it's not anything against people who drive Priuses. Some people like the car, fine, but
no, nobody likes the car.
If you're a people pleaser and you want people to like you and you want everybody to know how much you care for the poor or whatever, I can't. It's gross.
Well, you want someone who cares for the poor. You just don't want someone who advertises it to pick up chicks.
If you care for the poor, great. Care for the poor with your own money. Don't mandate other people's money go to something that you feel like it's not charity.
That's not charity.
It's not theft.
Yeah, and I love how they separate that as a fiscal issue. Well, isn't theft kind of a moral issue? Wouldn't we put that on that side of the ledger? Yeah, it's interesting to hear a woman say that because my dad and I have talked about that as men. But now, is this something that I know when we write about these things, sometimes we think up ideas for columns. Is this something that has been percolating for a while? You've always felt that way, and it was just sort of cathartic to put it to paper, or was it an aha epiphany?
So I've always thought this. I kind of think liberal man is an oxymoron. I don't think you can be a liberal and be a man. And I mean that in a masculine. You can't be masculine. You can be a male adult, but I don't think of you as being masculine if you espouse liberal ideas and if you live by the liberal ideas. There are a lot of successful men, successful people who say liberal things, but they aren't liberal in their own lives. They're conservative in their own lives. They're men in their own lives. But if you just even no,
That was a long way around to express her disgust. But that's true. Greg Gutfeld made that point, that anyone who's successful had to do so through the pillars of conservatism, of taking it upon themselves and personal responsibility. I wish I could find that, but Greg Gutfeld, Google it.
At Prager University
At
video.
Prager University.
Yep.
Guy does some great stuff. Okay, Courtney, we will bring you on after this break to anger some more men and maybe find some suitors. Louder with Kreider. Stay tuned for more Courtney.
This is Jesse, former governor of Minnesota, Ventura here, the bod, with the facts, talking again about the GOP establishment hacks who have been rumored to maybe even try and trot out Jeb Bush at a brokered convention. The fact is, Jeb Bush has been a puppet for the establishment-backed hacks for years who have bombarded your kids with xenoestrogens and chemicals that contribute to ADHD and mind control chemical agents, forcing them to go on dangerous medications like Ritalin and Adderall. But the good news is that you can fix your child's problem with some syrup that I sell at jesseventura.com. Know the facts.
Stephen Kreider here. Hey, Jared, what are you doing?
I'm just having trouble getting through this book.
Well, that's because you can't read.
I know!
You should have used Freedom Project Academy.
Freedom what?
Yeah, Freedom Project Academy. Just go to fpeusa.org. It's a fully accredited private online school, no Common Core, and absolutely no government funding whatsoever. All the classes are taught live online, kindergarten through high school, with real teachers based around the country. So through Freedom Project's classical curriculum, students master the basics like math, English, history, science, alongside some more commonly neglected courses like logic. You're not getting that in a lot of schools. Economics, American Studies, and Latin, all of which foster the long-lost art of critical thinking and create leaders for tomorrow. All classes are recorded to be viewed 24/7, and you can get your very own sneak peek of any class or professor at fpeusa.org. Open enrollment runs March through July, but classes always fill up fast. Now, do you have your GED equivalency, Jared?
No, is that important?
I think so. I mean, you might want to give them a call. That's Freedom Project Academy at fpeusa.org.
I see that action over there.
See that action over there.
I don't like.
I do it for our guest, Courtney, at Courtney Scoffs on Twitter. For those who don't know, is flexing my pecs. Because listen, she's not dating anybody. It's the closest thing that she gets to a little bit of fun. You're welcome.
Thank you. I'll send a text to Hillary later and say, the nice things that you do.
Flexing my pecs. Yes, that's it's something that I do on my own time. It's a skill like anything
I'm
else.
sure.
Sometimes you do on my time.
Lauren Southern already got the gif up of me being gay right away.
Yes.
She is so quick. Everyone's trying to set up. My friend Gerald Morgan. We've had him on the show. They're always going in my family. They're going, what about Courtney? What about Lauren? Because they're like, he's conservative. These women are conservative, and it's just they're always every time. I got like 3 comments. Same thing with you. I think you and Gerald will hit it off, but you're a Catholic and he's not. So there's that. It's like
I've never talked to Gerald.
Gerald's a good guy,
idea.
but he's not. He's a pretty brilliant guy when it comes to theology, and he went to Notre Dame, and he is not a Catholic. He doesn't hate Catholics, but he will argue why it's wrong. And he is very good at it. So that's why it might be tough. Or he might challenge you, and you guys might have a great conversation. One of you might, maybe you convert him, and next thing you know, he's like screaming for the Pope, like the Beatles fans when it comes stateside. You've written
see
about
that.
the Pope quite a bit. You've
Yeah.
been pretty peeved with him.
Yeah, there have been a few times just like, really? Seriously? There's plenty of other things that we could discuss. Global warming, we're going to do that? Really?
I think we need a new
Okay.
segment called Really Seriously with Courtney Scoffs.
Really?
Really?
Seriously?
Seriously?
Well, I
Why
think
not?
Seth Meyers
I
had a
don't want
segment.
Yeah,
called
stuff,
Really.
but I think ours would be better because, I mean, it's
Well, she's a
Courtney Scoffs.
Well, it's like Seth Meyers, and you add breasts, and you add a woman, and you add intelligence, and you add breasts.
I like that in this day and age, you have to include adding a woman after adding breasts because breasts
don't
anymore
know.
don't mean that you're a woman.
Well, that was going to be my question because you said, it's anti-rugged individualists, Bernie voters. So what about Caitlyn Jenner? I mean, still has a penis, of course, and said that we need to get back to constitutionalism, likes Ted Cruz. Would you say that that Caitlyn Jenner, in
Oh,
a
man.
twisted turn of events, is more of a
Caitlyn
man?
Jenner is more masculine as a faux woman than Bernie Sanders voters. Man, I don't know, because he's kind of forged his own path. He's made his own money. He's not demanding that other people give. He's not demanding that everyone pay their fair share. And he wears a dress.
Well, and he got boobs. Did he get boobs, or is he just pressing it together?
He forged those as well.
Did he actually buy breasts, or
I
is he
think
just
so.
pushing them?
No, I think he bought them. He's got the money.
Courtney, can you confirm? Do you know?
I have not looked into this.
I feel like it's the episode of
Oh, wait, my hands have been here for way too long. They've been
That's true.
like, yeah, okay.
There's a gift there. That's happening.
It's the episode of Seinfeld. Are they real? Are they not?
Are
Jerry,
they-
I
are
gotta
they
know.
Not real, yeah. No, I don't. Anyway, but it still has the bottom. Most transsexuals do not do the bottom surgery. So, okay. So you wrote about this. You got a lot of hate mail.
From a lot of men. I got a lot of hate mail for Beyonce too.
Did you get a lot of hate mail from women for your article? Actually, that's interesting.
So you get a lot of hate mail from gay men. Go
from
on.
gay black men.
Gay
yeah.
black men. Continue.
for our Beyonce?
It's just
I got a
DeRay
lot
with a
of-
bunch of fake accounts.
It was ironically a bunch of people calling me ugly, and they were using like the egg Twitter.
Where they
icon.
haven't really filled it out.
They haven't, yeah, or Beyonce, and they were calling me ugly. And like, okay, really? All right, really? Seriously?
So the guy looked like an egg.
Yeah, I have gotten a lot of hate mail from guys saying that, how dare I? I'm a cave woman. How dare I say that they're not men? And again, I say it just goes to my point.
How dare you?
How
dare you?
Exactly.
I thought you were cueing me for that.
I was.
Oh, okay. There you go. So it's guys who got mad, not women.
Some women, some wives.
Some wives.
I want to say like maybe three women, but majority has been men.
I think it's one of those
Male
things,
adults.
like you said, even if there are some successful people who try and espouse leftism, they don't live that way. I think it's probably the same with a lot of women, even though they claim they like a progressive guy and they like the guy with the handlebar mustache and the Bernie sticker. They don't really want a guy who, when something goes bump in the night, he's hiding in the closet and shoving her down the stairs like it's a Lifetime movie and she's pregnant.
Well, and here's one of the reasons I don't like feminism. I think it's unfair to men because feminists have said, well, they want this certain type of guy. They've said that they want, as women, to take the lead. That's unfortunate because that's not what they actually want. Bro tip to the guys out there, a lot of times women don't actually know what they want until they see it. And I know, I'm sorry, I apologize for my gender, we don't always know. So women like men who are strong, they like men who take direction, they like men who make decisions, they like men who are decisive. That doesn't mean that they're going to beat you over the head and drag them into the cave. That just means that they're good hunter-gatherers, they're good providers. Women are hardwired to want that. So Bernie Sanders voters who are whiny and wimpy and I want my fair share, I just, white privilege, I don't have it, and I don't think it's fair. It's just...
So on a scale from Jared's social justice friend, hipster, feminist, who wants to
He's gonna
check
die
his
alone.
privilege for you. Well, I don't know about that. All the way to the scale of, Donald Trump. You need to treat women like crap. Where do you fall on that scale? You've heard that quote, right? You got to treat them like That's what Donald Trump said, which I don't think that should be used against him because
How
if you
many
look,
times has Donald Trump been married?
3.
That'll look kind of, yeah, that might answer your question.
Yeah, that's why he cheated on them, and he cheated. He slept with other men's wives as well. So there is that. So I think that's important, though, to note, because a lot of people think, well, no, we're not saying you need a trash bag either. That's not masculine.
No, there's a big difference between, you don't need a trash bag. There's a difference between being a leader and being a jerk. There's a difference between being decisive and being I can't say it. You can't, being a man doesn't mean that you're just bossy and asserting your manliness all the time. It means you're confident in yourself. You
Matter
respect
of fact,
yourself.
men
respect
who
other
have
people.
to assert their manliness generally
They're
are very scared.
overcompensating.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
they're overcompensating.
Yeah, if anyone says, aren't I powerful? Don't you think I'm powerful? Aren't I strong? That's a guy who has some issues, and a guy who's probably never been in a real conflict. And I think it's important to note that, because you have a lot of people who will go too far the other way and think you need to treat women like crap, or think this false sense of machismo. There are men.
And that's overcompensating.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there are men who can just chug beer and burp and swear and hunt, and their families are falling apart, and their kids are losers, and their wives hate them. That's not a man. And you can have a computer nerd who's very strong, and people do well, and there's leadership. And I know we agree with that on principle, but I just want for people out there who hear this and be like, so she just wants to bully. You don't want some douchey bro in an affliction rhinestoned T-shirt with a fake tan.
No, and I was very careful in my article to define what I believe is masculinity. I didn't say someone who's gross. It's not someone who goes to the bar, drinks a bunch of beer, throws some shots, burps. That's gross.
Right.
And masculinity isn't gross. It's
complementarianism. I mean, as Christians, what people talk about, men and women complement each other.
We need each other.
Right. And to deny that, again, is just like to deny the evolutionary, the biological evolutionary mechanism of generalizations that people make, and people try and make you feel guilty for making generalizations. I mean, it's a generalization for a man to open a door for a woman because, hey, I'm stronger, I'm a man, it's easier for me, and it's respectful to a woman. Those same people deny the hard wiring that men and women are different, and we should use that synergy to complement each other. And that's, I think, why feminism is so corrosive to society for women in particular.
Well, and feminists aren't happy either.
They should smile.
So they should smile. Can they? I mean, they're just miserable all the time. And sometimes what I try to ask people, when I try to define for myself, what do I want? Do I want to be right? Do I want to be powerful? Do I want to be control? Or do I want to be happy? And you can't always have all of those things. So we have to decide as women and as men, what's more important? Are we going to be right, or are we going to be happy? Do we need to have that big, powerful career? Is that going to make you happy? Because a lot of women, they go for that, and when they're about 40, they don't have a family, they're not happy.
No.
So
that's true.
They've done everything feminism has told them to do, and they're miserable.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And you can't have it all. I mean, my wife and I, we don't have children, and so she works a lot, and I work a lot. And we know that it's not balanced, and eventually we're going to have to remedy that, particularly if we have kids. That's why we're doing it now, so that she can stay home. That's been our plan for a long time. I mean, she wouldn't have to work as much, but she's worked for this, basically she's in a top position at a company where it would take a long time to fill this role, and, she has equity in a company. She's very successful, and she can't stand feminists. But yeah, that's a good point, and you're a working woman too, which is why it's so interesting coming from you, because people can't say that you're barefoot in the kitchen pregnant.
Yeah, but I'm working because I have to. I never wanted to be a career woman.
What?
That was never in my plan. No, it was never a plan.
She hates working for me. Do you hear this, Not Gay Jared?
Gotcha.
Not Gay Jared knows what we put up with you sometimes, and it's not. And I love working for you, but I wanted to be the mom and the wife.
I love this man, and I will go
to
the hill, Calvary, and back with him to get my next paycheck.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. This has gotten uncomfortable because Courtney can be mean. Not Gay Jared. You just cower in fear.
Yes, sir. Yeah, she does. That's what she does.
Which is funny, he's not a Bernie voter. No, it is. It's fun. Well, it is. It's one of those things where I think if people really read the article and they understand where you're coming from, there's a lot of insight to take from it. And I think a lot of women are coming to the realization. We just talked with Lauren Southern. I think a lot of women, unfortunately, come to it a little bit late. They come to it in their mid-30s and their window is passed, and all of a sudden they realize that the guys who were white knighting and supporting their blue hair, wild boar-like features at the Feminist Film Festival, all of a sudden they're not around anymore because they found wives. And it's sad. What? Why are you laughing?
A wild boar, because it's funny. I've got that mental image.
They do. Feminists remind me of wild.
Beluga whale.
Well, they're fat, they're and they're prickly. They're prickly like wild boar.
So they don't shake, they don't wax.
I don't get that. I don't understand that. How is that oppression? Can you explain that to me as a woman? How could any woman see that as oppression?
Oh, because they believe that beauty is only for other men. Now, what women find attractive is not necessarily looks in men, it's their success. And men don't have any problem being successful, nor do women have any problem telling them to be successful. But for a man to say, I like a woman who doesn't have hairy blue armpits, that's, in the mind of a feminist, oppression.
Patriarchy.
It is the patriarchy.
Hairy blue armpits. You're taking more effort to not. Your anti-hygiene requires more effort than just basic hygiene.
And I want to know why blue, and who thought of it? Who thought, you know what would be a great idea, is to grow out my armpit hair super long and dye it a rainbow color. Someone thought of it.
I'm going to go with Lena Dunham. I'm going to go with Lena Dunham.
Yeah. As she was sitting on the toilet eating cake.
Oh my gosh.
What kind of thoughts do you have when you're doing that? Well, only gross ones.
Yeah, there's nothing good can come of that. That's one of those things I don't blame women for being women, and men should stop being blamed for being men. If a man says, it'd be nicer if you smiled more, that's not someone who hates you. Just like if a woman says, hey, why don't you get off the couch and go do something? That's not a woman who hates a man. That's trying to better someone, which you should be doing for yourself. All right, so Courtney, at Courtney Scoffs, you're going to have some tweets
hate?
here. No, some people are probably going to want to date you. So let's follow up on that.
Well, I've actually had a lot of guys say, hey, it was funny. I need to take a screen capture because I'll have one tweet that says, how dare you, or they call me a C word.
We have to go. We have to go.
Oh, no.
Okay, Courtney Scoffs, if you want to date her, we'll air it next. Stay tuned. Now, Dr. Ben Carson contemplates endorsing Donald Trump.
Of course, there's also the matter, Mr. Trump, that you've been somewhat divisive in your language, and I understand that as a political tactic. But as Christians, we are called to be good to one another and to uplift each other. And I need to believe that you will do that as president of this great country that I so love.
What? Who's been more uniting than me, okay? Everyone is gonna be so united, okay? I don't talk bad about anybody, okay? I make friends with everybody, okay? Everyone, they call me the friend making machine.
You did call Megyn Kelly a bimbo and Ted Cruz a liar and me a pedophile.
Okay, listen, Megyn Kelly is a bimbo. Ted Cruz is a liar. The pedophile thing, listen, okay? It's politics, okay? I don't know what you do. Listen, are you having sex with little kids? I don't think so. I don't know, okay? Nobody can know. All right, so it's not wrong. I'm not going to apologize for not being wrong.
Huh? I suppose you have a point.
This has been Dr. Ben Carson contemplates endorsing Donald Trump.
This is breaking news on Louder with Crowder. I'm Perry Matheson. We take you now to a Republican Party currently underway.
Boy, what a night. I really tuckered myself out.
Yeah. So, do you need a lift? You need us to call you a cab?
Oh, no, I got my own car. I can get home just fine.
Okay, well, we're just picking up here. There's not a lot left to...
Yeah, I'd offer to help, but with the IBS and all. Hey, does anyone want to play a game of Jenga?
Why are you still here?
We'll keep you updated as the Republican Party progresses after this.
I'm glad to be here. I was going to try and throw a knife at Jared in the studio, and I couldn't find my knife. Darn it, not gay Jared. You got the better of me.
Well, that's a
that time.
first. You couldn't find it. It hurt last time.
All right, go do your work to find a tweet, if you haven't found it yet.
All right, I will do that.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this program up. We're going to have Rockinest tweet of the show, which you can send to me at @SCrowder on Twitter. Of course, louderwithcrowder.com is where you can go for the podcast archives or the video if you're listening terrestrially. Man, it has been a busy week, and I don't know if I'm the only one who's just exhausted with the process. I think a lot of people are with the election process right now. The fact that the last debate scandal was outpacing GOP debate, I think should tell you something. Don't be too far into the forest to see the trees, okay? Don't overestimate the influence of the GOP primary right now. Most people don't really care. Most people aren't paying attention. As a matter of fact, that's why Donald Trump is doing so well. Most people don't really pay that much attention to primaries unless they're political hobbyists, and Donald Trump is a guy who's had a reality show for years, so he's already a pop culture icon. So, of course, he's going to get a lot of press coverage, especially someone who's polarizing. But that's an anomaly. He's an outlier. Outside of that exception, most people don't pay that much attention. And I think a lot of conservatives out there, and a lot of leftists, a lot of people who are canvassing for Bernie, activists, they develop an out-of-touchedness by not being aware as to the level of engagement for the average American, because it's not that high. It really isn't that high, and that's why we generate a lot of the content that we do at the website, which, listen, it's not National Review. It's not going to be policy wonky. I mean, we did this rebuttal for Vox.com with over 30 sources, I think, that have been used. But it is important, I think, to realize that some people aren't engaged. There need to be several steps to that ladder, and you need to provide the first one as well. So that's what we try and do, and hopefully, maybe this election, I think Donald Trump could provide some value there, where some people who maybe haven't been engaged at least have perked up and said, oh, I want to pay attention to this. And maybe it's through being offended, and they listen to what he has to say, and they're not all that offended. I think Bernie Sanders has done that a lot, too. I don't like what he says. I think a lot of people perk up because they hear free stuff. And I think then people can evolve, and then you can talk to them about policies and ideas. That's how it progresses. That's how it works. Listen, if you also want to talk about how to get young people on board, a lot of conservatives are like, oh, we got the young vote, because their median demo in a lot of conservative media is 72. You appeal to their selfish motives, their libertarian motives. A lot of people my age, a lot of people not gay Jared's age, they love the free stuff until they realize that at some point they're going to be hit with the tab. And when they realize that that's passed down to them, Social Security is a good example. If you can educate them on that, they can change their tune. But if you don't, if you just tell them they're stupid, if you just tell millennials that they're lazy and they're greedy and they suck, all of which are true, mind you, but that's the only thing you say, you don't really win the argument. Just like if you call everybody a liar in the primary, if every single person, if you're a Ted Cruz supporter and you call Trump, Rubio, Kasich, Christie, you called every single person a liar and Ted Cruz is the candidate, well, guess what? When you call Hillary Clinton a liar, they're just going to say, yeah, but you called everybody else a liar. Same thing with Donald Trump. If you call everyone else a liar and you get to that general and he goes, Hillary Clinton's a liar, they're just well, yeah, but you say everyone's a liar. It doesn't work anymore. So be prudent in the arguments that you present. It is time, as we wrap up the show, to go to a place called Load. And it's from northern Michigan. And for those who don't know the story, this is actually a tug. Depending on where I wear it,
down to it, but
well, you know what the truth.
Talk about how much Trump owes.
Okay, all right.
But
we don't know that. You can't substantiate that. Obviously, Megyn Kelly was calling Breitbart Trump Bart, and several people have, and wherever you line up on that. But yeah, I don't like John Kasich. I don't like him at all. But you don't want to beat him with a lie, saying that Soros is his pal. Maybe he did. Maybe I've missed something, but I have the article up from Daily Caller, and it was a certain amount from an associate who's been a longtime Republican donor. I probably don't like this guy who's a longtime Republican donor. My guess is he probably gave to people like McCain and people like McConnell, and he would probably be more establishment. But listen, if you want to beat someone, don't just beat them on a lie, okay? Leftists do that, and I know some conservatives say it's time to just do that. You can. I can understand the justification. It's not something I want to do. So learn that words matter, that truth matters. Learn how to establish meanings. If someone throws out an umbrella term right away, if someone says something and you go, what does that mean? If someone says establishment, or if someone says mass shooting and that doesn't define it, if someone just says, oh, patriarchy, if ever in your head you're thinking, well, what does that mean? A lot of the time we're shy, we're quiet because we're afraid of sounding stupid. It's actually less stupid to just say, what do you mean by that? Can you define what you mean by patriarchy? Can you define establishment for me? You won't sound stupid. Or will be stupid. So ask questions, define the words. Louder with Crowder. We'll see you next week.